Hey everyone, welcome to Know Your Gear QA Podcast 233. I hope everyone's doing okay and can see me okay, as always. I don't know, can you guys see me? I'm really not loving the new the new system. It is on such a delay, it kind of cracks me up. So I told you guys last week that the OBS software I used did an update, and and then the update created, they changed a bunch of things on the way it works. And what's funny is, since Friday, I've had like 2 major updates on OBS for bugs and issues. I'm like, yep. One of them is the way it works. It's so creepy to watch how slow it is. You just kind of have to have faith now that people can see you when you start talking. BC Rich 581 says, can you see me? I can. That's one of the new updates. Now I see all of you guys. There you going. And some of you are playing guitar. That's congratulations. Anyways, what else? Stuff. Okay, questions, things. If you're new to the show, this is your first live show. Please, if you're directing a question to me, either put question marks first so I know it's directed at me. You can also do a super chat. Like I said, I try to get to every super chat by the end of the show, and if I can, and if you're watching the rebroadcast, I timestamp everything so you can go right to the stuff. And there you go. Okay, so let's get into stuff. Obviously, I grabbed some questions. The first questions today, I did that already. We have some super chats already. Before we get started, I do want to say thank you. This week has been a chaotic week for me. There was so many things going on so many levels. And one of the things I added to my stuff to do is those limited edition KYG zither stands, the stands that are made in the USA. And first, I just want to thank everyone for sending those to me, or sending me pictures, I should say, these. So that's the picture of mine. That's with the Mira, and that's another thing I want to talk about. So we're going to talk about 2 things. One, I want to thank everybody who bought one of the pre-order stands, got one, and sent me pictures. Thank you. That was very cool of you. But also, which ties into this, see that beautiful Mira right there? I want to let you all know that you can win that guitar. So if you don't know, this week I put out a video where I reviewed the PRS Mira SE, and I went through it in detail. And that guitar, not one like it, but that actual guitar from that video is going to be given away next Wednesday through like an automated selection process. So I put the link to that video. You can click the link and then go into that video and enter to win it if you didn't enter to win it. Just, that's all you got to do. You don't have to be a U.S. resident. You just have to have it shipped somewhere in the U.S. I can't ship. I'm shipping it because, like I said, I'm going to be the last one to touch it. I'm going to go through, make sure it's right, put it in the box, and ship it to you. So it's got to be in the U.S. I'm sorry, guys. Just so many crazy things. So, and also to tie into that on the stands, if any of you still want to get one of those stands before we're done, and we're going to do an official video on the stand too as well. There's a link down below if you want to kind of get one of those and get that stand. And like I said, or you can check out some of the other zither stands if you don't want to get the Know Your Gear logo on there. But why wouldn't you want to get that when it's a limited edition logo? So for those of you, I don't know if some of you didn't catch it. I think I mentioned, I just want to go on this for a second. I mentioned to some of you that logo was different. And I had some of you guys send me a picture saying, hey, did you know the logo is different? I'm like, yes, the logo is different. It's a one for that stand. Okay. So, and like all our Know Your Gear logos, it's the same, but different. So anyways, they're always like a little bit the same and a little bit different. Okay, we do have some questions. We do probably want to talk about some guitar stuff. And so let's get with that. Let's talk about the first question I saw today, which was from Randall. And he said, he's getting a de-arming guitar and a Line 6 this month. Guitar Center had a hold on them by law. So he's probably talking about pawn clearance. That's usually what that's referred to, where in my neck of the woods, what we call that. Pawn clearance, if you guys don't know, is when you are a reseller of items, and that's pretty much all it's got to take. So you are required in most cities, states, counties. I understand I don't live everywhere in the world. I can't speak to everywhere in the world or every state and county in the United States, but in most states and counties, there is some kind of pawn cooling period or a pawn license period. I don't want to say pawn license, pawn period, where when you take something on trade, whether they bought it, a Guitar Center bought those items or took them on trade, they have to sit. You fill out a sheet, you buy these tickets. That's how it works here. You buy these tickets and you fill them out. And sometimes you can do it electronically, which is nice too. And you send it to your local, it's in your city. So each one's by city, not even by county. And your police department runs them to make sure that those serial numbers and items to make sure they haven't been stolen. I think now it's 20 days or some crazy period like that. It used to be 7, then it was 14. I think it's up to 20 sometimes. So it depends. Again, last time we talked about this, a lot of you guys chimed in that your city, your state, your country, whatever, is slightly different. But essentially, it's a week to 3 weeks is the time frame. I don't know of anyone doing a month, but maybe they're doing that too. And so the item it can be sold. It just can't leave the premises. So Guitar Center can sell it to you. You can buy it. However, keep in mind, when it clears, you'll go pick it up. Or if it doesn't clear, they'll say, hey, we're refunding your money. So he had to, he's waiting for the pawn clearance, which is good because, hey, it's one way it protects stolen items, right? He says, how long have you wanted or waited for a guitar? So he wants to know, now that he's waiting for this pawn clearance, what's the most I've ever waited for a guitar? You can't have as many guitar buying experiences as I've had or and not have tons of those stories. So you're asking for the longest I ever waited. A year, maybe 2 years, probably a year to a year and a half is probably as long as I've ever waited for a guitar. He also said a piece of gear. Same thing, about a year. I don't think I've ever waited longer than a year for something, or, longer than 2 years. So about a year and a half is the longest I've ever waited. Whether it was a custom item or it was just something crazy, a situation's crazy. So I once had a situation where I bought a Line 6. This will tell you a funny story. It's one of those things you laugh. I always tell you guys that laugh you hear before I tell you a story like this. It's that awkward laugh of me remembering how crappy this was. I bought one of the when Line 6 did the first Bogner amps, not the second ones, the Alchemist, the first ones. I bought one of the heads and I thought they were fantastic. And it acted up. It would work, and then 40. I'm trying to do off memory, but I'm pretty sure I'm close to dead accurate. What I'm telling you, it was like you could play that amp for like 40 seconds, and then it would turn off. And if you turn it back on, it would come right back on. Play for 40 seconds, it would turn off. And so here's what happened. So I took it to a local repair shop, and they waited a year. They took a year. Well, let me put it this, actually more accurately, out of a year, I'd had about enough. So at this point, I was like, just give me the amp back. Obviously, you're not going to fix it. And so I contacted Line 6. The reason I tell you the story is because this is just a crappy thing. I contact Line 6 and I say, hey, I need this amp. I have this amp. I bought it new. I had it for like 3 months, maybe 2-3 months. And then it started doing this. I took it to the warranty center. They've had it for a year. They haven't fixed it. I need to get it fixed. And they go, well, your warranty was 1 year. Yeah, and they wouldn't fix it. And I said, no, your warranty center had it. And they go, no, they're just a center that does warranty for us. We're not connected. They said, yeah, it's not covered anymore. It's been over a year. And so, and then I'll never forget the guy on the phone at Line 6 said, hey, if you don't like it, you can always sue that store, that warranty center, because they're the ones that cost you this problem. So what happened in my case, and that amp, just so you know, what happened was at that point I'd kind of lost the romance of even owning that amp because I only had it for a couple months, and then so I sold that to Tony Crank. If you guys know Tony Crank, it's his his, not his real name, but people know Tony Crank because of the Crank amplifiers. Remember Crank amplifiers? And I sold it to him, and he fixed it because I sold it to him for a deal, and he could fix it dirt cheap, and he gigged with it for years. He might still be gigging with it to this day, or he might have sold it off, but. Yeah, that was a pretty crappy year to wait to get nothing done. But that was situations like that really, really motivated me to do more repair. even though I don't do amp repair. It was like more of like that. One of the things when you do repair, when you start out, some of you guys talk about, when you want to start doing repair. One of the things that happened to me when I started doing repair is that you have this mindset of like, well, there's so many qualified people that can do this. Do I really need to be adding to the mix? And, I'd do repair and I'd be growing and I go, do I want to, what do I want to do here? And when I come across situations like that, I realized how many times it's not even about how good the work is. Sometimes the work never gets done at all. So that was a horrible story, but it did motivate me to really dig in deeper to what I was already kind of diving into. So, okay. So, okay. Hold on a second. This is out of order, but I want to get it. Meester says, "Hey Phil, would you invite Mrs. Oh, he's not Mrs. He means my wife. Will you invite your wife onto an episode sometime? I bet she has a couple of great stories, no pressure, and it's interesting perspective on your favorite YouTuber. Thanks. It's a great idea. I talked to her about that, and she said she would be somewhat interested to do it as an off-camera thing. And like I said, we've talked about this. However, in this particular case right now, she broke her foot. So that shouldn't really affect whether or not she comes on the show or not. But we've been dealing with a lot of stuff for the last week or so with the fact that she's got a broken foot. Some of you guys may know. So you got emails today. It wasn't a whole lot of you, but a few of you received extra zither stands. So you got Know Your Gear stands. You got extra ones sent to you because I was in charge of this last order. And apparently the system, it wasn't actually, thank God, after 3 hours of investigating today, we figured out it wasn't my fault. It was actually the website host that duplicated and messed up the orders on this last order run. But, good luck getting them to take responsibility for it. So some of you guys actually got extra stands sent to you, which I sent you an email today. You should receive it saying that, that you're not being charged for those stands, that please enjoy them. But that was my fault because she's her foot's broken. So we're trying to keep her off her foot as much as possible. So, all right. Hold on a second. Amanda says, "Let me interview her. That would be awesome." I guess. That's a perspective thing. I don't know whose perspective you would have from that. She's not going to say anything bad about me, I don't think. Pretty sure of it. But she is not in love with this stuff. So she doesn't have... My joke, I always say when people talk about, totally unbiased reviews, every YouTube channel has this, unbiased, I'm unbiased. And I always say, the only person that I know personally that isn't biased when it comes to guitars and guitar reviews is my wife, because she could care less. That's my joke. I just kind of always say that. But other than that, I always say somebody's got some bias. We just, just tell us what the bias is. Like I said, but if my wife ever did reviews, it would be, hi, this is a guitar and I could care less. And that would be the video. And then it would be 300 videos of that. So she's like, buy what you want. Buy. Mahogany says, draw a smiley face on her cast and let the cast come on camera while she talks. Yeah, you know what? You never know. Her thing, so you guys know, is this isn't an interest for her. She's been in this industry for many years, helping me and doing, part of the business so many years. But it was she's just very effective at management, at business. You know what I mean? She's basically an accountant, in accounting. She's done business. She's done all these other things. And so those skill sets have aided me well over the years. And because of knowing me since we were like 13 years old, and of course, all the other things, she is very, skillful when it comes to guitar. So in other words, she can repair a guitar, she can fix guitar, she can do everything she can do all the minor repair work that most technicians can do. She could do that, and handle a lot of other things, play a little guitar, do all that stuff a little bit. but all of that was out of a necessity to help the business at some point, not because she desires it. So I guess the way I'm trying to say this is her thing is she's worked very hard in her life for the last, let's say 10 or 15 years, probably 15 years, to not have to do this anymore. That was like like for a lot of people, they have all different, I don't know. Goals in life. That's what I'm trying to say. We have different goals in life. Her goal was to not have to work with guitars anymore. Believe it or not, that was like a big goal for her. So, and sadly enough, I still have her kind of locked down because she interacts with almost all of the patrons, as you guys know. If you're on Patreon, if you're sending messages, I answer the message, but immediately, like, I feel like it's 8 out of 10 times. I don't really know. I feel like 8 out of 10 times, whatever you guys send me at Patreon, I'm just like, okay, great. I just forwarded that to my wife. So I handle the emails, but most of it seems to be delegated to her very quickly, as much as I can, so that we can handle things. Oh, speaking of which, I want to do this just because it's a big deal. If you join Patreon, I never do the kind of join my Patreon thing, but I need to do this right now. I need to tell you guys about something. I had a bunch of people join Patreon. In fact, more than normal joined Patreon in the last 30 days. And I really want to thank you guys for that. However, it was a perfect storm of timing of a bunch of people jumped on Patreon. And at the same time, I was out of stock on the things. We make these packs that we send to patrons. I was running really dangerously low. And when we were kind of estimating based on what we had been gaining, we'd be fine. So you guys kind of overwhelmed us a little bit. My wife then broke her foot. So good news is, if you saw a post on Instagram yesterday, like, hey, there's a lot of Stringjoy strings in stock, a lot of stuff. That was me posting, let you guys know. A lot. If you're a patron and you're watching this right now and you're new and you're waiting for your pack, it will all be shipping next week. Everything is in stock and we're all good. And that was my wife's, as you guys know, I've talked about this in the past. When you join Patreon, I would kind of pile up some things that had some value, send them to you that I, had, and then like, thanks for joining. And when I asked my wife to help me with this, she said that doesn't make any sense. That you should be more personally connected with this. So she creates these packs based on everything that I use. Like, I use Stringjoy strings. It's the gauge I use. What tuner I use, things like that. What picks I use. And then she puts this together and then she hands me the cards and has me fill out the cards and then we send them to you. So I know this is, I just want to tell you guys, if you're a patron and you're watching this, you're waiting for your stuff. Everything, if you're waiting, trust me, you'll see it in about a week or so because it's coming out next week. Everything will ship next week. Okay. So, so it's nice to have a platform to tell you guys stuff like that. Okay. What do we got to do? Let's go back to guitar questions. Right. This one is from Adrian, and this is a tough question, and I love these kind of questions because, I don't have the answer, so we'll just talk about it. He says, can you hit the front end of a digital amp with a drive boost the same way you would a tube amp? When I do it, it just seems to get substantially louder, not more saturated. This is a great question, and it really involves a really long answer. So I'm going to give it to you. Not long like 10 minutes, but long like a couple minutes. So when we think of a drive, a overdrive, or a boost, whether it's a tube screamer like an overdrive boost or just a boost pedal, a clean boost, you name it, pushing the front end of a tube amp, we see what happens, right? You increase the input signal of the amplifier. The preamp section gets a little overloaded, for lack of a better way of explaining it, and basically distorts more, and it kind of drives the amp a little bit more. Solid state amps also do this, but usually not in as pleasing way. Now, some of you guys are going to say, I have a solid state, blah, 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 and it's great. That's true. But majority of the solid state amps, not so much. They don't really do the sound the same way the tube amps work with that kind of push, with that boost pedal. Digital, which is important to this because he said digital amp, and digital amps to me are different. And here's what I will actually tell you my experience with. The higher quality digital product, the more accurately or close to accurate that boost becomes. So let me give you an example of that. And this is just an example, not factual like data. I can't give you data, okay? I'm just going to give you an example that maybe helps. If you were to take a basic Line 6, I don't want to say Line 6 because that kind of picks on a brand, so forget I said Line 6. Take a basic inexpensive digital modeling amp. And we're talking very basic, very, a couple $100, whatever the base model digital amplifier is. In my experience, you plug a boost pedal in it, it works a little bit, but like you said, you don't really hear a lot. It's not very amazing. There's not a whole lot of interaction. By the time you get to the Kempers, the Axe effects, even the Helix, of course, or even the modeling softwares, I find, like I use iRig 6. Is it iRig 6? Guitar Rig 6. Sorry, Guitar Rig 6, but Guitar Rig 5, of course. Sorry, my phone was on, which is rare. Okay, so what's funny about that is I noticed that it becomes more accurate, and I think the reasoning is, and that maybe that will lead to something I'm about to tell you, a cool little announcement I'm about to tell you guys in a second, that will lead to the fact that maybe by design, when they were able to model things, when they were able to take digital modeling, sometimes I'm sure they can model reactionary things. Like, in other words, maybe they know if the amp signal increases, 5 decibels, that maybe to change the simulation a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit of that going on there. This is really funny. I read an article, it was written by my buddy Larry DiMarzio on the DiMarzio website. And he when he writes the articles, he sends them to me. He lets me read them ahead of time and give him anything I see that's interesting or not interesting, observations. And he did this really great interview with Phil Cullen from Def Leppard. Fantastic. In fact, the article was so good, it inspired me to make a video, that video about something that I read in the article that even I wasn't aware of when it comes to talking about, recording and pickups and stuff like that. And in this article, Phil talks about the fact that he uses Guitar Rig 6, Guitar Rig 5, and he uses the DiMarzio X2N pickup. And I was like, really? The X2N didn't seem like the pickup I would think he would use. And in this, he talks about really wanting to kind of, and I'm paraphrasing, but really push the front end of the digital, of the, interface. And so I put this to the test after reading the article, and I agree with him that for some reason, having a really strong signal coming out of the guitar, whether that's through a boost pedal, an EQ pedal, using an active EMG style Fishman pickup, whether you're using a higher output pickup, pushing it into a digital modeled software of like classic amps really came to life. Like, in other words, just like a real Marshall Plexi would really benefit from a DiMarzio Super Distortion into a tube screamer, right? To get that Plexi kind of roaring like it did in the 70s and 80s, the digital modeling seems to do that same thing. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because when he was talking about this, when Adrian was asking this question, my answer to you is, if you're using a very inexpensive digital modeling product, I don't think you're going to notice a lot. But if you go to better quality ones, and notice I didn't say more expensive, because that's not what it's about. I mean, you could buy software for $100 that's fantastic. I will definitely, everybody's kind of wants to be in a camp now, and you got to be I'm in the Kemper camp, or the tube amp camp, or the Axe Effects camp. And I try not to be in camps because I find that, like I said, everything's a tool, and I'll use it how I feel works best for me and what I'm doing. But I will tell you, in the modeling world, I really like the software that you can buy for your computer a lot. I use them a lot. They're very effective, very efficient to record with. My laptop is got Guitar Rig 6 on it, and I love it. I plug into it. I can play that whenever I'm traveling. It's great. So, okay. Next one is, this one was great. I think this is from Ames, and I hope that's correct. It says, what gear is on your radar at this time? That's an interesting question. It normally probably wouldn't be, because who cares? But in this, right now, in this day and age, there's so many things going on right now. With the fact that, and this is a great topic, and I hope you guys are interested in this. I think right now is some crazy things going on, which is, we still see a boom happening in the guitar business. It's definitely still going. It's slowing. It is. But, I mean, like I kind of use this analogy, and it works. It's like we were 120 miles an hour, and now we're slowed down to like 105. You know what I mean? The speed limit's still 75. In other words, speed limit in this analogy would be the norm. We're still throttling above the norm. So it's still high demand, and guitars are still definitely going out the door. And, but that is causing a couple new problems. There's some new problems for the first time. One problem is there's not a whole lot of new things to talk about. In fact, most of the time on most YouTube channels I've been watching, and including this one, a lot of the stuff that's new is not so much new. It's just they're not the booming markets, so they are out there marketing, right? So in other words, like the brands you haven't heard of that much are now all of a sudden popping up more because as the boom's happening, they want to get part of this boom going too. So that makes it tough to buy stuff. Plus, I'm exhausted with the exaggerated price tags. I could just go, I could go on this. It doesn't even have to do with guitar gear. I could talk about flooring in your house to everything else everything is just, I'm exhausted by it. I'm exhausted to hear it. We're not even talking about inflation yet. We're just talking about these, like I said, it's because inflation is inflation. Inflation is guaranteed. It's how much of it and how little of it. That's another subject that we can all be upset about later about. But for the sense of this for the purpose of this argument, there's just this like not inflation. This just kind of like, I'm just tired of hearing how crazy everybody's asking for stuff. And so, still finding deals, and I want to keep reiterating that to you. I've heard recently on a couple channels, I saw them talking about this, and a couple friends, which is, they're saying, oh, it's hard to find a deal, and you can't find deals, and don't even ask for deals. Ask for deals. I'm still, every time I need anything, I've been getting absolute deals, no problem. In fact, I have not found where I'm not able to not get anything right now. Every piece of gear you can think of. And I know that's different because I can tell you right now, there was an amp that was on my radar last year about this time, maybe a little earlier last year. Couldn't find a single one for sale anywhere, not even used. Now there was like 8 of them for sale new, and there was 2 used. And I even reached out and got a discount. This was a few weeks ago, but I got a discount. I reached out to the seller and said, hey, can you do any better? And they took like $200 off the price. So you can get deals. They didn't say, oh no, you can't get these. They just they got a deal and they went with it. The deals are on new gear is absolutely easier to come by than used. That's for sure. And as we talked about last week, with my Reverb experiences with a couple sellers, there's definitely an attitude in the selling that sucks, which is, the saying, there's a buyer's market or a seller's market. This is the seller's market. A lot of sellers, I really feel like the 2 sellers that sent me those guitars with issues, I think they did it because they didn't care. I really believe that. I can't speak for them. I don't know, but I really feel like it was like, there's no effort to really try to sell the guitar. Like they were very vague in their descriptions. They really were half-assy on the way they shipped them. They were half-assy on the way they treated me in the response. In fact, one of them still not resolved, and Reverb did get involved and is resolving it as we speak, which is the second guitar. And I'll let you know how that goes. The guitar's been shipped back. Reverb guaranteed me. They sent me an email saying we'll guarantee that you get refunded. And of course, today they did send me another email saying that I got to remove my dispute on PayPal, even though, like I keep saying, removing my dispute on PayPal means that I'm telling PayPal that I'm satisfied with the outcome. And if they just refund the money into PayPal, it will just automatically remove the dispute. So I'm still confused about Reverb and not understanding PayPal. It really feels that way, that Reverb just doesn't understand how PayPal works. It has nothing. They're trying to kind of allude that if I don't close the dispute, something, I don't know. In fact, what they're saying doesn't make sense. They're saying you have to close the dispute if you want the refund. And I'm like, that's not how it works. You refund the money to PayPal, PayPal will resolve it. They'll shut the dispute down. They won't even care how I feel about it. They'll just close it because it's been refunded. So that being said, it's really weird market right now where you're just seeing the sellers really not care. And I've even seen some of the manufacturers kind of have that attitude. It's kind of like they're really backed up, they're really busy, which I understand is very frustrating. I understand that feeling too. I'm also backed up and busy, getting stuff out the door, but I still don't want to treat every customer like you're lucky you got anything. We're not ready for that. And I'm not ready to take that as a customer either. So back to that all that whole thing I'm talking about is all about what gear is on my radar at this time. I haven't seen anything. I knew I was going to say that from the get-go, but I wanted to give you why, because you think there should be something exciting on the horizon. But when you're saying what's on my radar, I'm thinking like new stuff, right? New exciting stuff. There's just nothing new and exciting that I'm excited about. There's a bunch of stuff that's been sent to me for the channel. It's not necessarily new. It'll be new to us and it'll be interesting, but it's not new product, not new, like don't tell anybody about this product. And think about this. I can't even tell you guys like, oh, I secretly can't tell you, but there's this product that I have coming out. That none of that stuff. Everything I have that's sent to me is in production. In fact, I can tell you right now, one of the biggest problems I have right now on YouTube, so on the YouTube platform, by far, is I have 6 to 10 products right now I can think of in the hallway that if I do the videos right now, there's nowhere to buy those products. They're out of stock everywhere. And so if I release that video, it's just a video to tell you guys like, hey, check this out. You can't get it. Have a good day. So I've been waiting for those manufacturers to catch up. They sent product out. Some of them did it on, I don't want to say on purpose. Some of them did it knowing they didn't have product out there, which is weird. And some of them, when they sent it, they just ran out of product real quick. You know what I mean? So they don't have it now. So. Terry Clark says, hey, Phil, how about those headless guitars? Phil needs one of those right now. I think I own 3 headless guitars. You don't see them because they don't hang. I'm literally looking at a headless guitar to my right, which is my Delos by Kiesel. And I have 2 headless guitars. No, one coming on the channel for a review video. And I own like 2 or 3. I like headless guitars. But they're not the easiest to display on this kind of format. So that's why. Okay. Oh, this one ties into the discussion I'm talking about reverb. This one is from Judo Dad of 3. He says, ever have an extra shipping charge from UPS even though you used reverb shipping? Twice now for me, and I double check weight and size. Yeah, because you're going to get. I have not had that happen with reverb. I've had it happen. So I have a business account with FedEx, and I use FedEx a lot. So let me tell you what happens with FedEx. What happens with FedEx is when we create a label on FedEx, even putting in everything, we put in the weight, everything. They tell us, it's small print, it says this is an estimate. And so I just had to happen where I shipped a guitar. I had to overnight a guitar and it was $353. And so the company that shipped me the guitar, which I was insane. So, I would never, just for the record, I would never pay $353 to ship a guitar anywhere. Besides the one time I shipped the guitar to Tyler Larson because I wanted it insured and protected. But never again would I do that again. So my point is, the company asked me to do this, ship it this way, the way that I did it, and they would reimburse me. You know what I mean? So what happened in that case was I shipped the guitar. It told me it was $353. My wife, because she's smart, told me to wait a couple of days. Of course, I live in a, if I don't get it done now, it won't get done attitude. So I just sent an email right then saying, hey, it's the reimbursement's $353. And then a couple of days later, FedEx told me that it was like $362 or something like that. So it was like $9-10 more. I've had that experience. So I'm just relating to that they do sometimes give you these estimates and then later it changes. However, if you're buying reverb shipping and then getting some kind of notification that you owe more, you need to reach out to Reverb. You can do that through the chat button. You don't have to call them. You just go on the website. It'll say, do you want to chat? Hit chat, customer service. You want to know what you sold. You want to know that item number, put those item numbers because they're going to ask you, what are you referring to, so they can go look. The agent, that is. Tell them that you were charged more than what was quoted to you. I would bet Reverb would just refund it into your account. Like I've said, I'm having issues, and I've had issues in the past, like a lot of us, with people on Reverb. But Reverb as a whole, not so horrible. You know what I mean? I mean, as a whole, they've taken care of me. Like I said, they say weird things. Like I told you, this PayPal thing's kind of weird, but they're not taking advantage. I mean, I got my first refund. I'm going to get my second refund. It didn't stop me from dealing with Reverb. I purchased another guitar after I got that refund, and it's on its way. So I'm still going forward with that. But I would definitely reach out to Reverb, and then that would be more interesting, I think, for us as a community to know. Did Reverb tell you to suck it? You know what I mean? Like, hey, I got charged more, and they go, yeah, that happens. Too bad. But I would be really shocked to hear that. I'm sure you're going to hear like, oh, that's unfortunate. Let me look into this, and then somebody will get back to you, or they'll handle it on the spot, and then they'll just pay you the dividend. So they'll just go, we credited in your account this amount. So, okay, let me see if I can find a screen. Okay, Greg's question is, Phil, I have been playing my acoustic. Oh, I haven't. No, he has. He's been playing his acoustic more lately. Which strings are your go-to strings? I'm sure you mean for acoustics. There seems to be a lot of new boutique-type string companies showing up in the market. Sure, of course. A couple things. Yes, I like, for electric guitars, I play Stringjoy strings because, as I've told you guys before, and again, I always tell everybody has a bias. What is the bias? Here's my bias. I bumped into Scott, the owner of Stringjoy Strings, in Nashville at the NAMM show 2019, and he was just a pleasant person to talk about. He was super educated about strings on a level I can recognize as a nerd. I can recognize a fellow nerd, and I can definitely recognize an out nerd me nerd. And he was the out nerd me nerd. Like, I knew a lot about strings, and he knew a whole lot about strings. And I enjoyed the conversation immensely. And then I said, because I just wanted to buy some strings just to kind of say thank you. And he wouldn't take my money, and he shipped me some strings. And so I started using them, and I like them. So I tell you that because I tell you all the time, sometimes I like the product and I don't like the company. Sometimes I like the company. Very rarely do I like the company and not like the product. Sometimes I'm lucky to like both. Stringjoy is a brand I like both. Like I said, I'm friends with the guys at Diodario, and I'm friends with Stringjoy, and I like both those strings, and I like those companies. That being said, for electric guitars, I like Stringjoys. I use them a lot. Most of my guitars, especially, I told you guys a couple months ago, I bought a thing. Well, what happened was COVID. There were string shortages. I bought some strings, and then I had a bad batch, and that really kind of made me go back to the Stringjoys even harder, because what I was trying to do was not put the $12 strings on every guitar, because Stringjoys are kind of expensive. So I was trying to kind of parcel out to the guitars that I play the most that get the expensive strings. It was my theory in my head. It really made sense in my head. This guitar I play every day, put expensive strings on it. This guitar I don't play so often, put the cheaper strings on it. And that really didn't pay a dividend. But for acoustic guitars, I actually use D'Addario, and I use the coated strings. EXLs, I want to say. Something XL, something. Everything they got is XL, but I think it's like EXLs. And the reason is because I like the coated strings on acoustics because I like the acoustic strings to stay as bright as possible for as long as possible. And I find the coated ones work for me. A lot of players love Elixir strings. Like I've said before, Elixirs are one of the most diehard consumers out there, are people who are fans of Elixirs. They're great, but I use the D'Addario coated acoustic strings. I like phosphor bronze. So it's really more important to me is what the strings are, not what the brand is. For acoustic strings, I like phosphor bronze. I'm not a big fan of 80/20. 80/20 is a percentage of brass and bronze. I like the phosphor bronze. I like for acoustics 12 to 52, I think, and sometimes there's 12 to 53. That's whatever it is. That's what I go with. Whatever's the standard 12 gauge pack. And I'll do D'Addario, and I'm totally fine with that. Very rarely do I shift from that, and if I do, it's usually going to be D'Addario, just acoustic phosphor bronze, 12 to 52 or 53. And I have not tried the Stringjoy acoustic strings. And in fact, to be honest with you, just saying it out loud right now, I'm not even aware if they even make them. I didn't look. Like I said, I've been using the electric strings, and maybe I need to do that. One thing I want to tell you, though, is I don't have it in the link right now, but I'll do it now for the rebroadcast. Stringjoy sent me a link, and it was very cool of them to do this, it's an affiliate link, which means if you click the link, they pay me like a percentage of whatever you buy from Stringjoy. And that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Because as you know, I like to do affiliates, but I also remind you guys to call and make deals. But Stringjoy is not a call and make deal company. It's just you buy the strings. So, so if you buy the strings, use my link. It will support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. But in your case, like I said, if it was acoustic, I would just recommend what I use, which is the acoustic. The acoustic EXLs. I'm probably saying it wrong. EXL D'Addario. Coated strings. But here's one thing I want to talk about with strings. Strings are one of the few things that I've noticed that it's not as easy as the more you spend, the better they are, but it is kind of that way. And there's nothing wrong. Like I have people tell me like, I buy the $3.90, whatever pack's on sale. In fact, I have a friend, that's all he buys is whatever's on sale. Okay. If he walked in the music store right now and they had 2 packs for $3, kind of crazy. He wouldn't care what they were. He'd buy them. And there's nothing wrong with that. My problem is I'm very, very, very particular about strings. I literally try not to be this way. There's a couple things I try not to get hung up on. I have a friend who's hung up on fret size and was fret wired. He only likes jumbo frets. And I told him once, I go, that's the worst. Because once you get addicted to a fret size that you only like jumbo or you only like vintage fret wire, then all guitars, anything that's not that guitar is a mess for you. I try not to get too hyper focused on that, but strings are one of the things that I've been the biggest kind of personal snob. Not for anybody else. Everybody like what you like. But man, for some reason, it's everything. It's how they sound. It's how they feel. Everything is a big deal for me. Yeah. So, I've tried so many expensive strings and I've been happy with most of them. My big problem for strings is, it's hard for me to find strings that I like that aren't expensive, which is the worst. It's the worst. If you can fall in love with cheap strings, you will be a happier person and enjoy the rest of your life and don't look back. Okay. Jay's question is, hey, Phil, I have a Fender Ventura. Is it Ventura? Like Ventura, is it? Or is it like Ventura Boulevard? I never looked at the spelling on Ventura Boulevard. Probably is the same. Anyways, it's Ventura. I'm going to say Ventura Telly. And the strings are not centered running down the neck. Somebody should make a video about that. In fact, I will, and I'll go back and I'm going to do it this afternoon, and then I'm going to go back in time and put it in this link down below. It says the high string is much closer to the edge and slips off. Yep, I have a video. If you don't want to wait until I put the link when I do the rebroadcast, it's called, in fact, I didn't even name the video. Guitar World did. What's the name of the video? Hold on a second. I don't even know. I made this video and I made a title. It was one of the first times this ever happened to me. I did a video and I titled it. And then Guitar World took the video and put it on their webpage and shared it with everybody. But then they retitled it. In other words, they called it something else when they were sharing my video. And I'm going to say string alignment, something. Let's see what happens. It's called How to Fix Your String Alignment on Fenders and Squiers. So what happened was, I think I called it How to Fix String Alignment, and they changed it to How to Fix Bad String Alignment on Fenders and Squiers. So that's what it's called. In fact, while we're doing things, I'm going to link it, copy it, get out of it, and I just saved myself 5 seconds after the show. So I'll post it. Look at this. I'm posting it like as we speak. Video. Look at that. That gives me 2 more minutes with my kids this afternoon. Okay. So basically, that will help you and that will fix the problem for sure. It's a pretty straightforward fix. It's not a tech fix. That's what's great about it. It's not like a guitar tech or a luthier or anything like that. Anybody who's ever worked in a music store learns this trick fast. There's a lot of the tricks I did on the channel that have done really well aren't like my luthier guitar / repair tricks. They're the tricks that I'm like, when you deal with guitars every day, the question I never been asked this and I never thought about it, but I just thought, how many bad guitars do I touch versus good guitars on average? I'm going to say I touch more good guitars on average, but I kind of feel like it's a 70-30 split. Like 30% of the guitars you interact with in a music store, in a repair situation, or even as a YouTube reviewer, 30% are probably issues. So you learn to adjust issues really quickly when they're like that. So that's how you'll fix that, Jay. And let me know if that works. You don't have to super chat. Let me know that works. That was very kind of you to do the super chat. Just send me a message through PMcKnight7. I'll send you a thumb up emoji that I got it. So at least you know I understood. And if it didn't work, at least now I'll know. We'll know we have a bigger problem. SJ says, what pickup should I look for in my Epiphone 2020 Les Paul upgrade? Okay, he says he plays blues and rock. He's looking at the Friedman PAFs, the pure PAF, or the Seymour Duncan Pearly Gates. Any others to check out? I'm a big fan of obviously Les Pauls and PAFs. I'm a big fan of PAFs. I once watched. Oh my God. Why am I'm having a moment where I'm having a moment where I can't remember the name. Shane. I'm sorry. Shane in the Blues. I remember In the Blues. I just couldn't remember it was Shane. So Shane in the Blues, he did a video once a couple years ago, and he was saying, it was a live show. And he was saying that he's reviewed so many pedals, at some point he starts realizing like they're all the same. And I'm paraphrasing, like I said, don't want to put words in his mouth, but I get that's the gist of what he was saying. He's like, there's really only a few pedals. And what happens is you have to start asking yourself a question, like, how many guitars can I review? How many amps can I review? How many pedals? How many pickups can I review? I currently have probably 200 or 300 sets of pickups in the shop right now. Different pickups from different brands. And here's what you start realizing. You start realizing that exactly like everything in life, there's really like everything has this lineage of being a few things. So like the PAF, the Super Distortion, the JB, these are actually different pickups. They're different. And so much so that they become like copied so many times by so many other people. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. This isn't a negative speech about that. Like Marshall amps and then all the copies of those, which I know Marshalls are from Fenders, but you understand each copy gets different enough to where it's just a little bit of a different flavor. But at the end of the day, you do come to some point where you realize that things aren't different and they're all the same, is that they're just minorly different. You know what I mean? So when you talk about a PAF pickup, and I mean a good one, the most accurate PAFs you can get, obviously like the originals, take something like the original PAF, and then you look at the Gibson current recreations and everybody's recreation of it. What you realize is everybody's just a little percentage different than each other's, but essentially they all have this kind of overall voice. I've said this once before, and I really believe this. If you could give me 25 tube screamers from $20 up to $200, and I could tell you which ones I like better in the mix. You know what I mean? Like, okay, that one's better and this one's not as good to my ear, right? And it wouldn't matter. So, I'm not talking about a challenge where it's like, I'll pick out the expensive one, because that's not where I'm going with this. I'll be able to tell you, if you gave me 20 of them, which 5 are my favorite 5 of the 20. Now, here's what's interesting about that. I wouldn't be able to tell you, and I wouldn't bet, by the way, if any of the 5 were the cheap ones, because I wouldn't really, it doesn't matter to me. What I can tell you is if you give me 12 tube or 20 tube screamers and one that's not even a tube screamer, that one I will probably pick out every time is like, whoa, that one's not like a very tube screamer. Because what happens is you play enough tube screamers after a while, you know what they do and you hear how they sound. And it's not about, to me, whether one's good or bad. I think they're all good. They're just slightly different. But I can tell when one's not a tube screamer. For the most part. Again, there's always going to be an outlier to this, but I'm saying the majority. So same with pickups. A PAF style pickup really comes across to me. And so when I hear a pickup that's different than a PAF, slightly, adjusted, it's like, yeah, it's PAF tone, but it's more mids. It's PAF tone, but it's more kick. It's PAF tone, but this. So back to your question, I think the Friedman PAF is one of my favorites. It's a great pickup. The Pearly Gates are great pickups, although I picked the Friedman over that. You were saying any other ones to check out. Of course, there's so many great PAFs. I actually like the DiMarzio PAF. Technically, the DiMarzio one's the PAF. I actually have a funny story about that too. I've said in my videos, I say PAF, and I have a couple people, not very many, 2 or 3 go, I hate it when he says PAF because it's PAF. And I said, oh, when I say PAF, I'm talking about DiMarzio. And then I guess somebody sent me a message, an email. I love it. They sent me an email one day and they said, just, I talked to Steve Blucher and he says he's never heard of this, calling DiMarzio PAFs. And I'm like, well, here's what I know. I tell Larry PAF, and he doesn't correct me. And I laugh when I say it because I don't think it's intended to be called a PAF. I just say once you removed the PAF dots, it's PAF. V-Man says DiMarzio anniversary. Absolutely. I could tell you the video I told you I'm inspired by from Phil Collin earlier today, the article with Larry and Phil Collin. The video that I have coming has to do with Les Paul and some pickups I'm putting into it. So... And it's called, I think I'm going to call the video The Other. What did I call the other what? The Other. Hold on a second. I actually write down the names of the titles of videos. And it's called The Other Legendary Les Paul Tone. That's what it's called. The Other Legendary Les Paul Tone is going to be the name of the video. And it's all inspired from that article with Phil Collin and them. And it's actually Phil and Larry. Not even talking about Phil and Def Leppard. They are in the article, but in the beginning of the article, they're talking about all the inspiring players from the 70s and what they were using. And it made me think of something. So, but yeah, the Lindy Fralins, or like I said, if you want to save some scratch, go DiMarzio PAFs. I also like the 59, from Seymour Duncan. Like I said, none of those pickups are bad to me. All of them are good. I know that's part of the problem. You kind of want to like, which one? But here's the good part. At least I'm not saying one of them sucks. I like the Pearly Gates too, by the way. And I would tell you if I didn't like the pickup, because there's a lot of pickups I'm not a big fan of. David says, Phil, he has an SR250 bass, sound gear, okay, and I hate the active pickups. Is there a clean way to replace the active or for passive? Absolutely. Sure, of course. Super easy. First, SR250, let me look at it real quick. Because I don't know, there's so many Ibanez's basses and there's so many numbers. I need to see, there's soap bar pickups. That's the crazy part. So you got to get soap bar pickups. So you're I would say look at Bartolini, see if they have something that fits. Here's something I would suggest to you though. You're talking about a bass. The one I'm finding, the SR250 is a $300 bass. Basses are a different conversation than guitars. I hope you understand this. Guitar players buy a $300 guitar. You throw in some, $200 pickups. And, we could argue all day if that's a smart or, dumb decision. But either way, it's fun. A $300 bass, you're going to looking at pickups. You're going to be looking at $300 in pickups. And it's tricky because it's an afternoon. It's going to be like, unless you're really, really efficient, you're not going to knock that out in 30 minutes to an hour, rewiring all that stuff and taking all the stuff out of that bass and putting in new stuff. It's going to take you at least an hour, 2 hours of replacing the electronics just from the time to take the strings and get through all that stuff. And if you ever sell that instrument, you're going to have to take all that stuff out and put those originals back because that bass is never going to be worth what it's worth used. Let's say $200 used and those electronics. So there's something I would think about. I'd almost suggest you to sell the bass and buy a different bass. Here's the thing about this. The sound gear basses are some of my favorite basses. They have that great neck. They feel great. They play great. Here's something I would highly suggest to you, especially if you have the means to do so. Means being not the money in this case, the means like the ability to travel and stuff. If you can go to a music store, any music store, I would highly suggest to pick up some kind of 60s style jazz bass, whether it's from Sire basses, whether it's from Squier, whether it's from, any of the companies that knock off Fender, because there's a crap ton. I mean, guitar players think people knock off Strats. You should see how they knock off Fender basses. I would find a very, it doesn't have to be inexpensive, but try to find an inexpensive jazz style bass and play it. I really think so. If you, in a scenario, if you came in and let's say if I was working at a retail store and you came in with that problem, I would definitely tell you not to invest into that $300 Ibanez bass. I would definitely tell you to sell that bass for $200, take that $200 and try to find yourself a really nice jazz bass for $200. And there's a ton of brands out there that have it. There's a reason why, like the jazz bass, it's the gold standard for recording, for using, you know what I mean? It's just easy. It's an easy instrument. That's definitely what I would do. And if the issue is you love the Sound Gear's little neck, don't worry, the jazz bass will have that same kind of little neck. So that's what I would definitely consider doing. Aaron Peacock, hey, what's up? He says, love the channel. Thanks for the spectacular content. Thank you for the spectacular super chat. Peters says, hey, Phil, I've always wanted a real Strat. It's funny that if we just talk about this, we're talking about a real Strat. Okay. And it says, but my parsimonious side thinks that Godin or Godin. Remember, I told you, if I read, it's Godin. If I say it without reading it, it's Godin. Godin would make me happier. Long-term thoughts. P.S. Love the candor. You're awesome. I appreciate the compliments. I appreciate that. Look, I kind of adapted a philosophy, and I want to tell you, Peter, what it is with your question. When people use the word real, it matters. I've learned this. It's just a new thing. I wish I was paying attention all the years when I was in retail. I think I was a little bit, but not like I am on YouTube now when I watch the way everybody talks. You know, like I said, 233 episodes of me talking for 2 hours about guitars. I've watched every episode. Even more so now that I do pod clips, because I timestamp them, and then when I do pod clips, I'm searching through them. So here's what I could tell you. Though when somebody uses the term real, like I want a real Gibson, I want a real Fender, I want a real Marshall, or hey, I have a PRS, but not a real one. Even I caught myself saying it. If you watched my PRS Mira video the other day, in the video, I almost edited it out of a shame, because I was actually ashamed of myself for saying it. At one point, I referred to my PRS Core Mira as a real one in the video. I say, oh yeah, it's like my, and I wasn't saying the negative. I was just saying, oh yeah, it's not like my real one. And then I'm like, oh, I'm saying it. So here's what I'm saying. If you use the term real, you should buy that. That's my new theory. You know, the game on the channel is if you ask if you should buy a guitar, we're going to say yes. That's the new rule. The new rule is if you say real, you should buy that, because it means something to you. That's what that means. By saying I was thinking about getting a real Strat, but wouldn't I be happy with a Godin? You would absolutely be happy with a Godin. You would be happy with the Harley Benton. Anyone could be happy with any of these guitars. You can be happy, right? You could play. I mean, obviously that's another benefit of reviewing things. I review $200 guitars, and then I scratch my head when I put it down and pick up a $2,000 guitar, and I'm like, what the hell am I spending this money for, right? And then the opposite. Sometimes, you pick up the $2,000 guitar and you go, wow, it's just so dreamy. It's great. But realistically, if you use the term real, I think that means it matters to you. I think I would go with getting the real Strat. I think you'll be happier. And here's what I can tell you. No matter what that costs you, it will cost you more if you buy another guitar, even if it's a Godin, and sell that off to get the Strat. If you think that's where you might end up, you should just do it. Pull that trigger. You won't regret it. It's expensive, but I've learned the hard way many times over when it comes to this. Trying to save myself a little money buying the thing that I think will make me happy when I know the other thing will make me happy, just wait. Just wait. So, there you go. Gravedigger Dale says, have a beverage on me. I will, absolutely. After this week, I'm definitely drinking after the show. Wasn't a bad week. Had some great times. It was just a lot of work. And, work in my world is like a lot of people. Work is good. Work means everything's, going to be okay. And so the more you work, the better the better you're doing. However, you try to say no sometimes, but I don't live in a business. I'm in the gig economy. I don't work in a say no. There's no jobs for me next week that I don't make. So, Lori says, hey, Phil, I love your channel, even though I cannot play well yet. That's not a prerequisite, but I appreciate you stipulating that. Says, what is an item that you are anticipating being released soon that you're excited about? It kind of goes into the previous question, right? What new gear am I excited about? That's the kick to this right now, is that there's nothing that I heard that's being released that I'm like, woo, I wish I could tell you guys like, oh, I have one, but I can't tell you. I don't even have that. There's a lot of cool things out there right now. And there's a lot of goofy things, gadgets, stuff that are out there. But like I'm trying to think of something like this is going to change things, or I'm super excited about anticipating it. There isn't nothing really that's kind of sticking out. I'm kind of even looking around the room because sometimes I have stuff out of camera view from what you guys that I'm looking at. I will tell you this. I'll tell you a piece of gear that's been tough to talk about because I have a video that will come out soon, and it's the aux by Universal Audio. And that was a piece of gear that I have had now and I've been working with on so many levels because of the fact that everyone has one. And everyone, meaning everybody you watch on YouTube, has a Universal Audio aux. And they were $1,000 when they came out. They're $1,300 now. And they're expensive. And I will tell you this. My video will be out soon. If you actually want a good video, I like Rhett Shull's video the best. I watch a ton of videos after I got it. Like all of us, right? You buy it, then you start watching other videos on it. And Rhett's was the most accurate assessment of it that I can tell you. And I will tell you, from watching his video of it, I obviously like it a lot more than he does. Okay, so I'm not saying he doesn't like it. If you watch the video, he likes it, but he has all these issues that he sees with it. I see all the same issues as him. I just came to that like, oh wow, but I still love it. It's a great piece of gear. And if you're new to guitar and just playing, this is still not something you need yet. But you were talking about gear that is exciting for someone who's newer playing. I don't know if there's a piece of gear that I'm super excited about right now. There's supposed to be some more guitars coming to the channel that are more affordable, that are supposed to be higher quality. That I've heard, the stories that these are, even better than some of the more other inexpensive guitars, and I'm excited about those. But yeah, not as gear. It's like I said, it's tough because nobody's really designing new product right now. I mean, there's some companies, but they're not really pushing it out because there's no need to. They're just trying to catch up with what's going on. It's crazy. A lot of you guys shop at Sweetwater. I keep getting this too, by the way. And I'll just tie into this because anytime we get on a subject this might be interesting to you guys. Look, I keep hearing from everybody. It's just so funny. I say I keep, meaning, hundreds of people like to post on videos, on comments on videos, or send me messages to saying like, Phil, Sweetwater doesn't have anything. They don't have anything. I'm telling you, as an affiliate of Sweetwater, in other words, you guys click those links and I get a kickback from that. They're killing it. They're selling. That's why there's nothing there. I absolutely hate the idea. When I go on Sweetwater, especially a guitar, even more so than an amp and a pedal or anything, guitar is absolutely the worst. But I absolutely hate when I go on Sweetwater and it says like, click now, order it, but we don't have it. You know what I mean? We'll get it soon. I hate that because I hate ordering stuff not in stock. I mean, that's been this luxury that we've all been. We've had this luxury now since basically the internet got invented and it's been put out. It's like whatever we want. It's out our whim. We just get it. And I hate this idea. You click stuff and you wait for it to get in stock. But what I'm telling you is you guys, how it works is if you buy, let's say, an item on Sweetwater, let's say like this Squire Affinity here. Let's say you go on there tonight and you somehow have used one of my links. And you click on that and it says it's out of stock and you purchase it. I still get paid for that, even though it's not in stock. That is very unique. It doesn't usually work that way with other companies. Now, so and I just want to be clear, if you click that, it's not in stock. They pay me the royalty. However, if some point during the sale, at some point, whether it's a day from now or a couple weeks from now, they don't deliver it to you or you cancel the sale, they just deduct it out of my account. Okay. So, and before I ever got physically paid, it was all pretty much determined. But the reason I tell you that is, this is what I'm seeing with Sweetwater. You guys may not be seeing. You guys are clicking these things that are out of stock and buying them. And then some of you guys are waiting for them to come in stock. Well, what's happening is there's like 8 people who bought it and there's only 9 things showing up. So, or in some cases there's 7 showing up. So they're just perpetually out of stock. So I want to tell you that so you guys realize this isn't a guess. I'm not giving you a theory. I'm physically watching it to the tune of huge triple, quadruple digits. Huge numbers of people are transacting that I can see these transactions. I don't see who you are. I just see the transactions. They are buying the stuff before it ever lands at Sweetwater. That's why Sweetwater is perpetually staying out of stock. You can see it. So they're selling so crazy that even though I was doing the same thing you guys, that's why I looked. Because when you guys, a bunch of you guys kept sending me messages saying, how are they making any money? They don't have anything in stock. It's because everything's selling before it gets in stock. Crazy. So just be aware of that. I'm not telling you to pre-order stuff. I'm just telling you that's something you're probably seeing and not understanding. And it's happening. Then we have David wanted to do a super chat. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Steve says, hey, Phil, I got my KYG zither stand in the mail yesterday. It's awesome. Don't forget to lemon oil it to per their instructions. Is the Keeley Caverns next? Okay, so yes, you get your zither stand and you get a bottle of lemon oil, and yeah, you have to oil it up. So something to tell you, I all my zither stands I bought over the years, I think my oldest ones are like 2 years old, maybe 3 years old, whenever that first video is. And I think it's around 2018, might have been 2019, but I thought it was 2018. I lemon oiled them all when I got them, and I never did it again. I've never had a problem, and it's dry here. So I'm not telling you not to do that. I'm telling you just, again, what happened with me. But to your question about the caverns. So if you're a patron of the channel, you know that I've kind of sent the patrons the list of the brands that I'm in negotiation with for the limited edition runs. Obviously, the stand is a limited edition run. When I say limited edition, I want to be very clear about this. Limited meaning once I'm done with it, we'll go to the next thing. It's not about creating a... I'm trying to balance this with not creating one of the two problems that exist with limited edition runs. One, you limit it so low that people, not everybody wants one, not everybody that wants one can get one, and then they go crazy on the secondary market. That's not what I want. And I also don't want a limited edition product where I don't have them sold through. So what we've been doing is trying to figure out the perfect number so that everyone gets fulfilled. I mean, I understand there's still going to be 2 or 3 people going, hey, I wanted one and I didn't get one. I'm like, sorry, that's the end of it. But I mean, I feel like if I got like 95% of you that wanted a product to get it, that's great. And then, then if 2 years from now, people are reselling them for more money, then that's great. But I don't want to create that problem like in the first week. Everybody's just secondary selling them against me. So on the stands, we're almost to conclusion. Like I said, we'll have a video and that will happen. The next product, I believe, will be the Keeley product that we've been talking about. Again, this is a process. I don't have control of when these products come out. There's certain products I didn't want to talk about publicly because they, if they don't happen, there's already 1 or 2 that I've told the patrons about that I think are kind of not going to happen because of COVID, because basically everybody's so back ordered. Why do a limited run of unique products at a reduced price for my audience? But yes, the Keeley pedal is going to happen as soon as it happens. Like I said, what happens is the patrons get notified first so that they get guaranteed to get one. And then after that, everybody, I notify you guys. And again, don't trust me on this. Don't become a patron in the idea that you think, because that way you can get a product. If you're excited about it, I'm pretty confident you're not going to be left out of the party, so to speak, right? It's just, you may have to wait a week or 2 if you're waiting for the pre-order, if you don't get the pre-order shipments. The other thing that is probably okay to talk about now, although I haven't touched the prototype of it, is there is going to be a limited Kiesel guitar. Now, limited meaning, again, none of this stuff is signature stuff. This isn't like Phil McKnight signature. This is just like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could get something a little different than normal? And basically when I go to these companies, I go, I'll guarantee you this many sales. Let's do this. Let's have some fun doing this. And again, one of the requirements to the companies is they can't add to the price. So like the zither stand is the same price, if not less than like I said, the zither Know Your Gear stands. The typical branded stand Gibson Taylor are $199, so they're less than that. I want to be less than what the product typically is. So Kiesel is definitely coming. And Keeley is definitely coming. And by the way, on a side note, I was talking to the Tone King this morning, for those of you fans of the Tone King. Tonight, he's going to be building a Kiesel guitar on his show in real time and ordering it. So if any of you interested, because of the new website, right? I guess they reached out and they talked, him and Kiesel, and they're going to do that. As you guys know, the Kiesel guys are very interactive in the social communities because of the fact that they're an online business. So they interact with online people. But probably tell you now, I could tell you a little bit more. So I'll tease a little bit more. All I can tell you is this: whatever's coming from Kiesel is why my copper Strat was missing. So there you go. But again, all that stuff, trust me, not likely any of you guys will find out about it too late. I'll be very clear and make sure everybody gets notified that this stuff is coming. Lots of cool things. And every price point, by the way, too. That's the other thing we're trying to do. So I understand, like, some of you are like $150 something or $300 or $1,000. I want to hit $5, to $2,000 and everywhere in between. So everybody gets some kind of opportunity to have something fun. It's just fun. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create some fun. Mathematically, it's not making sense. I mean, I get extra revenue from working with this, but it's nothing that's really, no windfalls here. But I get to make a little bit of money, which is always good. And you guys get something exciting. And in most cases, because of my experience with the market, everything I'm doing, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to sell it for what you paid for it to some degree and get out of it if you decide, like, I really hate this pedal or I really hate this thing. I'm really trying to create an environment where that's what you'll get what you paid for it, or close enough. So Magic Man said Keeley and Kiesel are my favorite companies. Well, as you can imagine, I've been trying to work with companies that I enjoy, that I like. You know what I mean? That and as many of the companies as I can in the USA, obviously. So you know. And I'm also working on the whole, hey, we can't ship outside the United States. Working on that too. We're getting that all, we're working on all of it. That's why I said it was an interesting week. I've been working on it all. Okay. And then unfreaking believable. It doesn't say, it's funny. It just says unfunkin'. I want to say unfunkin'. I know Ben Coombs will say fucking, but here's what's funny to me. It doesn't say that. That's why I don't say it. I say unfreaking because it's actually there's no U. So it's I'm trying to say with no U. I like funkin'. Anyways, he says, Phil, LPD limited edition run pedal at some point. Yeah, well, of course, but Lawrence is busy right now. Same thing. It's like, you got to temper this with, I have to tell you, so we're very clear. And I don't know if I'm clear to say this. Okay. So what I'm about to tell you. When Tony Zither from Zither Stands agreed to do the limited edition KYG, he's 1,400 stands back ordered right now. He has I want to thank him publicly, right? When I said, hey, let's make a limited edition, Know Your Good Stand, he was like, Phil, this sounds fun. Let's do it. This is honest, true story. We were talking on the phone. And also, I have no time to do that stand. You know what I mean? But we will do it. Because I love what you do and I love your community and they've been kind to my business, and let's do it. And so same thing with Keeley. Keeley, so you guys know why the patrons were told about the Keeley product way ahead of time is Keeley just moved to a larger factory. So he's been dealing with moving into the new factory and doing the stuff. And he's, again, selling pedals faster than, he knows how to breathe. And so a limited edition product isn't necessary for Keeley in any way. Same with Kiesel, as you guys know. How many times you guys watch Jeff Kiesel? We're so back ordered, we can't. Same thing. These companies are doing this. They're, obviously it's money for them, but it's not. You know what I mean? Selling 100 stands or, 100 pedals, 10 guitars. It's revenue. It has more effect to me than it does them. Making $500 or $1,000 across a spectrum for a couple weeks work, that's a pretty big dividend to me, to them, to make, the same kind of money in the big pot of things. It's not huge, but like I said, I appreciate them. But, and then like I said, once this is moving, which I think it is moving and the momentum's moving forward, we're going to start reaching out to you guys, all of you, saying, hey, what products, what do you want to see? Limited edition runs of what? So Amanda says, Lawrence might be an octopus. He might be. It's man, well, let me tell you, Lawrence just works. I understand. It's just, Lawrence is always working. Let me tell you, if you see Lauren in a chat somewhere, that guy's working and he's soldering with the right hand and typing with the left. All right, let's refresh this screen and let's find some more subjects to talk about. We do have some cool ones. Here we have Jack T. Jack T says Strandberg versus Kiesel Vader ? I did a video on that. He says, why are Strandbergs so expensive despite being made in Indonesia? Thanks for all you do. Sure, you got to understand, part of Strandberg's thing is the intellectual property angle, that the Endura neck is a unique design. Remember, he used to just sell that. Strandberg, I don't want to say started out that way because that's not how he started out, but in the beginning, he was selling the plans to get an Endura neck. Like, in theory, you could, not so long ago, reach out to Strandberg and have them send like the Endura neck plans to like Texas Toast Guitars and have them build the guitar for you. Or you could build it yourself, right? But I mean, a lot of people are actually just having other companies build the Strandberg Endura neck. And if you guys don't know what the Endura neck is, just Google Endura neck by Strandberg and you'll see how crazy this is. And it's really cool. And like I said, I have a video with my guitar teacher, Matt, and I have my Vader and he has a Strandberg. Let me put you in a very, so back to your question, which one would I pick? I would pick the Kiesel Vader. And then I'm going to tell you why though. The Endura neck is very cool. The guitar is very cool. Why is it so expensive? We already discussed that because he can charge that, right? Obviously we know that branding has to be something and he has to get something for his R&D. And so, he's had to redesign and fix that model of guitar. I mean, the original bridges were horrible. So, I mean, he's already had to redo this stuff. And you have to understand one of the problems that is out there, one of these misconceptions that's really hard to deal with is just because a guitar is made somewhere doesn't mean that's what makes it cheap. That's only one part of an equation. So for instance, and I'm just going to use Indonesia for perfect example of this. A company, and I want to use this as the anchor. So the anchor of the story is, let's say we take something like a Fender, American Fender Stratocaster selling for $1,700. Let's say they decide to make a Indonesian-made Fender Stratocaster. One of the things that's going to happen dictates the price, of course, is the labor. And of course, there are regulations like OSHA, right? How strict are they? Are they stricter than the United States or not? Disposal fees, costs, manufacturing costs, labor costs. That's a factor, but also materials. So for instance, if they do all the right materials, that's why I said sometimes it's funny when we look at SEs, we say, oh, an SE is less expensive than a core PRS because it's made in Indonesia. Well, that's one reason why. Some of the other reasons is it doesn't use a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch maple cap. It doesn't use the same finishes, right? Like now all current Paul Reed Smith guitars are nitrocellulose lacquer, much more expensive to do lacquer than poly. Way more time letting it cure and dry, way more time on the buffing wheel. Well, maybe not on the buffing wheel. I'll have to ask Nathan. But more time for sure. And then other things, components and stuff like that. So the reason I tell you that is part of the thing with Strandberg is they could make those guitars like in the Cortec factory or wherever, right? The same factory as, let's say, the Harley Benton. But just because they're made in the same factory as the Harley Benton doesn't dictate that, okay, well, it's a Strandberg, so it should be like twice as expensive as the Harley Benton. I mean, some of the things on the Strandberg are going to be more expensive because the components, like the bridge, is more expensive. In theory, I don't know this because I haven't looked at this, but I'm just telling you these are things that make things more expensive. The type of pickups they use, the type of woods they use, and then of course how long it takes to get that guitar finished in production, and what does the manufacturer tolerate. That's a huge part of this, and as I've said this before, if you're a manufacturer, you make things. Okay. You know what? If you make things, it's how acceptable are your mistakes? Some manufacturers accept a lot of, or I shouldn't say manufacturers, some import companies accept a lot of mistakes. Let's say, like the Glary company. I have some more reviews coming up, some of their guitars, and believe it or not, because of some questions you guys had, and I thought it'd be fun. But one of the things about their price point is they're just going to let pretty much anything go through. You know what I mean? Because they know, they'll deal with it when it gets out there. So you understand, putting a higher standard on the quality assurance at the end of the guitar is a big factor of that. And so that's another thing that's expense. I'm going to tell you another thing that makes the Strandbergs kind of pricey is not only stainless steel frets, that is a price indicator, but it's also being, especially if they're 7 or 8 strings and they're fanned frets, little more time on the crown and level process, a little more time on the work on the frets. Again, you know what I mean? It probably if I was going to guess, probably takes the time to do two good. Wow, what am I saying? The time it takes to do 2 Strandberg guitars, they could probably do 3 normal guitars in the refretting process, or fretting, dressing process and stuff. So, but to answer your question, which one would I pick? I would pick the Kiesel Vader, 1, because I did, but 2, for that same reason. I did exactly what you're doing. I was like, I like the Strandberg. I like the Enduroneck. It's really cool. As you guys know, I want a Sarah Longfield one really bad. I was like, I love the way it looks. I love how cool it is. Again, I tried to find one for a deal. Even a couple of you, Armando, one of the patrons and a viewer, he even found me a Blim one on their website. I just didn't get to it fast enough. And then he sent me back an email saying it's still there. And I went, and I think by the second time it was really gone. And no, I thought for the price I paid for the Vader, I bought the Vader in mint condition used for $1,000 even with the gig bag. And that's legit. So that's my problem. That day in that video when we were A-Bing them, it's not like I'm like, oh, the Vader blew the Strandberg away. I like the Vader just as much, if not a little bit more, and I paid $1,000 even. So to get a great Strandberg, I want it on par with what I have. So if I can find a great Strandberg for $1,000, I might be a buyer at that price point. But there's no desire to do one on the channel because we've had Strandbergs on the channel. 0666 says, just got my Zither Know Your Gear stand. Thanks. Hey, it's funny, you guys. Thank you for super chatting me and telling me you got the thing you just paid me for. That's actually probably the best business model ever. If I was ever going to brag to a company, I'd be like, I once sold an item and then got somebody to pay me to tell me that they received the item. And that's cool. So, by the way, 0666, thank you guys. I know you guys buying stands with my logo on it. I know, man. I like I said, you can't hide my smile, man. I love this stuff. It makes me feel like, I don't know. It makes me feel like this is real. Like this whole experience that there are people out there like, man, I really dig what this channel is about. And then I go, I think, and you guys are nice to me. And I just like you guys are trying to figure out if I'm being honest and real. Sometimes when you guys bump into me, you're like, oh, you're like, how are you on the videos? I'm always like the same thing. I'm like, oh, they said they like me, but oh, look, they did. They bought a mug or a shirt or a pick or whatever. And I'm like, oh, so they must really like the channel because they wouldn't buy. I was in shock. I'm shocked by the stands. I think at this point we sold 73 stands. So you guys know. And that's a little skewed because because it's skewed by a few, either direction. But about 73 stands. And I think we're trying to get to 100. We originally talked about only doing 25, but like I said, that didn't make any sense because the patrons pretty much bought those up. And then the pre-sale, which is when I was talking to you guys bought 35 or something like that. And then, so that one day. So I was like, oh, well, yeah, we can't do 25. And I was like, well, we'll do 50. Well, 50 is sold out. So we're going to do I'm going to launch an official video, and then I think that's when we'll sell up the last of the 20-something stands or something. So we'll see. Scott Grove says, I have your logo sewn into my underwear. You know how cool that is, Scott? that is cool, man. I don't know, does Groovy Music, I don't know, do you have a logo? I don't remember you having like a weird logo. See, Scott, like I said, Scott's what I call OG. He's like, everybody was watching his stuff and then started learning and how to fabricate and put together this process of doing videos. And so he predates, like, let's make a catchphrase or let's pump our shirt sales like crazy. That stuff didn't really exist. So yeah, I don't know. I know we've got to eventually do a video. Oh, that's the thing I sneakily said I was going to do an announcement. And and then I didn't do it, and then Scott's a perfect example. I was telling you guys, I've decided that I'm going to, on the Film Ignite 2 channel, we got 3,300 subscribers. That's pretty epic. Like, I never thought that channel would ever get more than I was just hoping to get 1,000 so we could monetize it. Don't worry, I will make all announcements here on this channel. Nothing will change, but I'm going to start doing interviews with people on that channel. Deep dive. I want to turn that channel into my fun. When I want to do something fun, I put it on there. Like you guys know, when I did the Reverend review for Sweetwater, they sent out the Reverend. I did the 55-point analysis inspection on that thing because it was kind of like 16 minutes and the entire video was only 12 minutes. So having a 30-minute video where half of it was just talking about what was on that card. I'm going to do more deep dive, and I'm sure most of you are going to join me over there. So, for this part, but I want to start doing that because, again, I want to be a little bit more free, and we'll probably curse a little bit more and just be a little bit more freer, just kind of chill the vibe a little bit different. You know what I mean? So I have both. And the reason I'm doing that is for no reason other than this. It would just be I want the second channel to be a little bit of an outlet for me. So when I'm feeling a little uptight, a little nervous, a little whatever, you're stressed on this channel, trying to get stuff done, trying to get things going. Maybe if I'm not in the mood, instead of not making content that day or for a couple of days, maybe I'll go, I'll just do some more channel 2 stuff. You know what I mean? And I think that'll be fun. So we can get Scott on there and he can curse all he wants. And like I said, I'll do the shout outs here. So the probably numbers will be pretty decent because, like I said, you guys pretty, when I suggest things from the live shows every Friday, you seem to jump on them. But let me know what you guys think, like I said. And what's great about that channel is if there's something that was so amazing that I think the world needs to see no matter what, maybe we'll throw it back on this channel too. Pull it off. We'll see. John Own 8 can't play any ruddy says, hey, Phil, what is the best rig? Wait, I need to stop before I answer this question. I have to tell you, I was watching Aaron Short music today and yesterday. When I say watching, I don't watch anybody's live shows. I listen. I think a lot of you guys just listen too. And I was listening to a bunch of his shows, and then I was listening to a RJ Ronquillo live show the other day. Again, a lot of meticulous work this week I had to do where no talking, just doing stuff. So playing in the background was great. Everyone has like a normal name on their show. Everybody's like, Mike from Minnesota says, Sally from Utah wants, right? Donegan from Ireland said, like, where's all the goofy, John Own 8 can't play any ruddy, like none of that stuff. I just want to tell you, I actually love that about you guys now, but I'm also convinced that a lot of you are making up names just to see how badly I can just stumble through them. So, and just so you know how bad it is, some of these names are so bad that I'm like, even I for a second go, have I been drinking? Was I drinking already? Okay. So anyways, John says, hey, Phil, what is the best rig to play guitar with an Android phone, iRig or something else? I use iRig, but I don't know because my new phone, I purposely didn't want an iPhone because they got rid of, the 1/8-inch jack on the iPhone. And of course, so you can buy more dongle crap. And I held out so long. And then, anyways, it doesn't matter. I have the new, I don't know if this isn't even the new, this is probably last year's model or whatever, last model of the Droid. This is a Samsung phone. No 1/8-inch jack. So my iRig thing that I use plugged in the 1/8-inch jack. So I need to find another thing to plug in the phone. But I stopped using the phone as much because I use my laptop and I use a Scarlett little interface that's powered by the laptop, and then I run Guitar Rig 6. It's fantastic. And then I run that through. What am I running it through? I have no idea. I want to say Logic Pro. I'm just making up stuff at this point. Anyways, I use I don't know what's on there for recording software. It's different than what I have on here, but I should remember what it is, and I'll record. I like, whenever I'm traveling, I actually play and record as much music as possible. I learned over time, for some reason, like, in my dream world, I would go, on a vacation, or I'd go on a business trip, and I'd have my guitar and my, my little amp or my little laptop rig, and I would practice songs and learn them. And that's not what happens with me. I just never did it. I would just practice half a song, and the next thing you know, I'm doing something else. So I learned to just write music and play music. And I find that it is, for me personally, being immersed in a different environment makes me feel creative in a way I never feel it when I'm at home. Never. I've never felt as creative as home as when I'm traveling somewhere. And so I like the Scarlett rig. The Scarlett thing I use, like I said, it's powered by the laptop. The laptop is entirely portable on a battery. I take a guitar and a laptop. In fact, what I usually take if I take electric guitars, I take that deluxe Kiesel guitar that they sent me, the blue one. Play that. It's fantastic. But I will check, because I probably want to hook something back up on my phone. But I've been using iRig. I'm sure a lot of you guys will have suggestions for him as well. Grumpy Mike Guitar? What does Grumpy Mike want to know? He wants to say, if I could only buy a Gibson or only a PRS, which would it be? Huh. It's tough for a reason you don't think so. Here's why it's tough for me to answer that question. My two favorite guitars. My favorite guitar, of course, is my Mira, because I've had it forever, and I love my Strat, but I have my Mira. And I've been playing that Gibson SG like crazy. So it's tough for me. So it'd be like, to me, the only way I can internalize that question for me would be, what would I keep, the Mira or the SG? And that's a tough question. What I will tell you is this: I wouldn't pick. I don't know why I would have to pick, but if I was, told like, hey, you only keep one, I'd probably just tell somebody in my family, like one of the kids or my wife, like, grab one. And I don't want to know which one, just grab one. I'd probably lean a little bit more towards the SG, just a little bit, because it's in my favorites right now. It's when played to death. But at the core of your question is kind of like not just my personal thing, because I have one of each, which one do I keep? It's like, if you were gonna buy a Gibson or a PRS, which one would you pick? The thing I would suggest to you on that, because I want to come at you like this is your question, right? You're ready to finally go, okay, I'm gonna buy one of these monster price guitars, because that's really what I think you're getting at with this question, right? You're like, in fact, can I rephrase? Can I rephrase your question? Let's play a game called. It's tough because $2,500 doesn't buy a whole lot anymore. So let's say $3,000. Isn't that sad for these high-end guitars? And again, we could please factor in, you can find them used and all those things. But let's say you had $3,000 and you could go to like sweetwater.com and you could buy a Gibson or a PRS, and they were somehow in stock through the miracles of being in stock. Which one would I suggest you buy? In other words, what would I tell you to buy? I would tell you, if I was given the choice between a custom 24 for $3,000 or a Gibson Les Paul, I would pick the custom 24. That's what I would pick. Now and that's why I like these answers, because instead it's so easy for everybody to go, buy a Gibson, buy a PRS. I mean, it's not that easy. I would buy a custom 24 over a Gibson Les Paul. I would buy a Gibson Les Paul over the 594, and I love the 594. I just think if I could only have one single cut style guitar, I kind of want the Gibson. I luck out because I like the SG. Grumpy Mike, I would say, look at the SG. I just bought another SG. I will be showing you guys next week when it gets here. Hey, anybody's really paying attention to the podcast? Like epically paying attention? See if you can guess what SG I just bought. In fact, the first one to guess, if you guess what SG I bought, I'll send you a shirt. I'll send you a Know Your Gear shirt. So to answer Grumpy Mike's question, I don't know. I don't know, man. You should buy what you love. Don't listen to, I think that's part of the problem. A lot of people like Gibsons. They just want a Gibson, but then they hear everybody talk about PRSs. Look, PRS, what's great about them is they just great fit and finish, and they have, great things. But I'm literally, like I said, I'm basically in love with the basic model guitars. I'm about to make a announcement video that I can't tell you soon, very, very soon, about a new guitar that I'm in love with. And it's inexpensive. In other words, it's Somebody said that Iomi, the SG. No, we're talking about Gibson. Somebody's saying specials are the Fireflies, all stuff. No, this is a Gibson. I just bought a Gibson SG, another Gibson SG. It's really dumb. That's why I'm telling you, because I have a Gibson SG. I have a Gibson SG with P90s, and I have a Gibson SG standard. So I just bought one, but funny enough, I've been talking about it, or I was talking about it on an episode just a couple weeks ago, and about the fact that I should have bought it. It was used. It got sold, and I didn't get it. Another one popped up. This one was a little bit more than the last one, but it was a little not in better condition, but had more added to it. So I went ahead and did it. And it was the first time I ever bought a guitar where I can honestly say I think I paid more than what the fair market is used for it, but just wanted it. If no one gets it, I don't want to tell you guys. Somebody figures it out, they get a free t-shirt, but it's got to be the first person because I can't give out 50 t-shirts. And like I said, I'm not going to tell you if you guys get close. So I'm reading a couple right now. Dennis says Rick Beato's Les Paul Special. No, it's an SG. Okay. So I'm double checking. I'm pretty sure I'm right. It's Bussa the Younger. See, who has these names? Bussa the Younger. I love your name, Bussa the Younger. Bussa the Younger said it got it. So please, Bussa the Younger, email me at pmcknight7 at gmail.com. My email address. There should be a link down below too. Email me, put SG winner, and I'll have my wife send you a Know Your Gear shirt. She'll have you pick. You get pick out the design and stuff. I'll send it to you. What's great is it gets sent to you from Teespring, so she just pays for it and sends it to you. They picked the olive green SG. That is absolutely correct. I bought the same SG you guys have been watching in the videos. I just bought the green one that Chicago Music Exchange did. And I don't know why. I just wanted an olive. I love my SG. I play it so much, and I just wanted an olive green one. So there you go. So now I have a matching SG and Strat. They're almost the same ugly green color. And I don't know that I like, that I hate, that I like. I hate that color. All right. Robert says, hey, picked up a used 65 Deluxe Reverb. I'm a tube noob. All right, good. Vibrato channels work fine. No sound at all on the normal channels. Should I take it to a tech? Okay, so the so you're not getting any sound. That sounds like one bad tube. That's what that sounds like. So you got to understand each channel would have a tube. And again, I'm not a tube expert. I'm not an amp manufacturer builder. I know enough amp stuff to basically keep me out of trouble. My guess is somewhere in the back of that amp is a bad preamp tube. That would be my total guess. But before I would take it to an amp tech, I would definitely check. That's very simple to do. You're going to have little covers on there. Push up, turn it, pull it off. There's little sleeves over the tubes, and look at I'd take them all off. Or you can Google the schematic on that 65 Deluxe Reverb, and there might even be one printed on the side of the amp. And what you're going to look for is the preamp tube that's assigned to that channel, and that's the tube you're going to do. And here's what's great. You don't even have to buy a preamp tube or do the tube test, with tapping on it with stick. All you have to do is figure out where that tube is to that preamp channel and pull it out, pick one of the other tubes, but make sure you know what tube you pull it from. I don't even care if it's not one of the 12AX7s. I don't care which one. Pull one of the tubes out, stick it in that spot, put the other tube in the other spot, and if that channel starts working, then you know that the problem moved with the tube. You could just buy a preamp tube. They're only about $15. That's what I would probably just do. Just buy a preamp tube, find where that tube is, pop that tube out. Super easy. Just make sure the amp's turned off, unplugged for safety purposes, and pull the tube, put the new preamp tube in. It'll be your first time, but hey, look, it's not complicated stuff, okay? If you're just about 10 years older than me, you probably had to go to the convenience store to buy a tube for your TV when it was blown. My TV, I think my first real TV when I was a little kid, we got an RCA console TV, and that was our first TV I remember as a kid. We got the RCA, made in USA, by the way, console TV. It had a remote control, not on a wire, because some people's first remote control TV was on a wire. Ours was an actual remote control, but it had one button. Do you guys remember this? Where you push the button and it would actually physically turn the knob. And, but if you passed your channel, you had to keep going around until you got back to your channel again. And that TV, no tubes. That was a transistor TV, no tubes. So I never owned a tube TV, but I know from all my friends that are just a little older than me that they remember like, oh yeah, you got to get a tube for your TV. So it's not, it's not that hard. But that'd be my guess. And I would do that before I would take it to an amp tech. So there you go. Bradley says, what does Bradley say? Bradley says, is changing simple stuff out like tuning machines considered as modding in your opinion? Sure, of course. For modifying? Sure, of course. Adding push pulls, mini toggle pickups, etc. At what point is it modding or just making it more functional? Well, now you're playing semantics on, modifying, repairing, you know what I mean? I mean, I use the term repair when sometimes something's not being repaired. You know what I mean? Like if somebody says, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm repairing a Strat." What are you doing? I'm updating his potentiometers to Borns. Is like, sometimes I won't say modding, I'll say repairing when I definitely mean modifying. Yeah, but to me, I think it's more of it's just a slang term that we just slap on things, modding, modifying things. I mean, it doesn't have to be specific. There's definitely a degree of how difficult the modifications get. You know what I mean? There's a big difference between, hey, I'm modifying this guitar, I'm changing out the tuning keys, or hey, I'm modding this guitar, I'm routing out hardtail off, I'm routing it out, and I'm putting in a tremolo system. I mean, that's a more elaborate modification. So, that's the thing. So I would say all of it's modifying, even though, so. I just like what I did on the channel, what I started doing, which I didn't do on purpose. I didn't see it coming. I would put out videos like how to do this or how to do that. And then some of the simplest videos became, I'm going to say viral, where they got, big enough views to get most of the audience in that's in now. Excuse me. And, what it was I leaned into that as soon as I saw success from it. I saw all of a sudden the comments, and the comments were like, wow, Phil, this is really cool. I never knew I could just change these out without really any tools. And then that really made me think like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. I guess a lot of people need a starting point. And where do you start? And how do you make somebody feel comfortable to start? And so I would say that they're all modifications, but there's definitely like, easy modifications and then more intricate, more difficult mods, right? Which is where I think it's going. I think there's a lot of channels out there doing some more intricate mods than I've ever done on my channel. And I love it. Talking to those channels, hanging out with those channels, what I've learned is they seem a little, I don't want to say they're frustrated, but they're like a little frustrated with the fact that like, oh, I can't get the views that, I got in this video. And they thought it was, they took it personal. And I told them, I said, no, it's not personal. You gotta understand. So there's how many people are looking for what you're doing. Everyone's looking for a quick, easy fix that anyone can do. I mean, that's an easy thing to execute on. Not everybody's ready for hey, today we're going to strip off the paint and refinish this guitar and add a new veneer. You know what I mean? That's a different person altogether. And you got to get them there. And that's how it works. You got to baby step them in there. And that's one thing that I really kind of focused on with the channel, which is how do I create the first step for everybody I can? Because that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get everybody to go, okay, I'll start this. And a lot of them, when I did the how to block your Floyd Rose video, that video, the entire intent of that video was I was really kind of sick of people paying me to do that. See, I laugh, that awkward laugh, like, because I'm thinking how dumb it is to say that, but it was true. You know what I mean? The reality is this. I want to make a living, working on people's guitars, but I didn't want to make a living doing something that was so easy. But, here is where guitar repair is slightly different than some repair. Not all techs charge a rate based on difficulty. They charge a rate based on hourly time. So whether you're changing strings or you're soldering something or you're resetting a neck, it's the same. The time is paid the same hourly wage, even though the difficulty has gone up extremely. So some of the times, like I told you guys, I don't really want to spend my time, and I definitely don't want to spend my customers' money with the, okay, $75 an hour, let's start there. And then, oh, and you want a restring? Well, that takes me 30 minutes. So, and I round up to the nearest hour. So that's $75. You can't do that to people. 1, 2, it's not right. And 3, I'd rather just them do it. Because like I said, you know what I mean? Deep down, I don't want to do that anyways. So same thing with the channel. A lot of my videos on how-tos really were predicated on this, like, okay, where do people start? And what do I think would help them? You know, why are they spending $50 to have somebody do this when they can just do it? Magic Man says, Phil, why don't you own an orange, specifically a rock reverb? No particular reason. I've looked at rock reverbs used all the time. I mean, it's definitely an amp that's in my wheelhouse. In other words, I like the tone of it. I like that amp. You know, that's it. Just gonna find one day. The rock reverb. Look, I've played a few orange amps. I like their solid state stuff. I like a lot of the stuff they did. They do, I should say. I've told you guys this story many times over. They reached out to me a couple Christmases ago, probably in 2018 or somewhere like that. It was years ago. And it was right at Christmas and I was really busy and I didn't want them to send me product and then not put out a video in some kind of timely manner. So I said, hey, it's not a good time right now. Can we do it later? And then I never heard from them again. And I don't know if I've offended them or I've upset them or whatever. But that was my intent. My intent was to give them the best value I could for what they were doing. If anything orange was ever sent to the channel, I would do a review of it. You guys are very interested in orange, and I like orange. But if I was to buy an orange right now, I would definitely buy the rock reverb. A lot of you guys have mentioned like, hey, have you thought about buying the orange crush? Are you buying this? None of that stuff I'm not going to buy for myself particularly, but I would really be interested in doing on the channel. And the reason I wouldn't buy it particularly is because I'm not in the need of any amps right now. So a rock reverb isn't that I think the rock reverb is better than those amps. That's just an amp that's interesting and different enough from what I own to justify some kind of purchase. So I got to justify just like you guys. It doesn't take much. You could get there in your head. You just got to go, well, let's see. Okay. Yeah, that's why I need it. But yeah, the rock reverb would be great. It's a great amp. I think a friend of mine, I know for a fact it was a friend of mine that said this, but when I was saying I like the Rob Chapman RD1 and the BD1 by Victory Amps, and I was explaining that I had that amp and I got rid of it, and I did that in my regrets video. What's interesting about that was my buddy who's an amp guy told me that basically that's just an orange amp. They pretty much just copied the orange amp pretty much, and he goes, "That's if you like it, you'll really like the orange amp stuff." And I was like, that really got me thinking. So maybe I'll have to revisit that. I just want to go back to this, Michael, because I like learning about people and their jobs and stuff. Michael just said, I do that in my job. I charge $60 an hour to repair your garage door, but I will talk you through adjusting your beams or something simple rather than charge you to walk up and move it an inch. Exactly. It's the plight of the repair person. You know, I have a lot of friends that are repair people by trade. You know, I have a good friend who's an air conditioning guy. I have a good friend who's a plumber, right? I mean, they're just, I have a friend who's a mechanic. My job's less dirty than everybody else's. I mean, it can be dirty, but it's less dirty. Not a lot of grease with guitars and stuff. But, we can relate to each other. We all have the same problem. What's different about them is people need them. Like when you're air conditioning or plumbing, your car don't work. Everybody's like, whatever it is, get it done. No one ever comes to me and goes, whatever it costs, just do it. Maybe every once in a while, but not really. Everybody's just, it's not a need. But that being said, you're always at odds like, okay, I want to make the most money I can possibly make, but I also want to give the best value to the person. Not only so they come back, but also just because it's the right thing to do. So yeah, like Michael's saying, I find myself, I will try and help them as much as I can to not finally have to pay me. Unless, of course, I really believe either A, they don't want to do it at all. Because sometimes there's just that, And Michael, although you make a great point, I bet you could relate to this point too. I've had it to where I've pretty much given them in detail how easy it is. It's like, turn this and then it's all fixed. I don't need to do that. And they go, well, you just do it. And I go, well, yeah, but if I do it, I'm going to charge you. You just turn it. And at some point, sometimes I realize like, okay, they're never going to feel comfortable. So just do it. And then I charge them. You know what I mean? And that's just how it goes. So very rarely does it happen, but it's happened where you're just like, okay. Unfunkin' Believal says dump truck drivers are paid by the hour. We are paid by the hour. This is a great question too. Again, I like this. Robot Robot Shlomo says, would you stay away from buying a guitar with a headstock repair? And if you do, what do you look for? Well, headstock repairs, I do the same thing everybody else does. You know, if it's a lacquer or a Gibson style guitar, you can use a black light on that. That sometimes is very telling. You can just look for actually visible damage. There's actually with Gibsons in particular, you don't even have to look for damage anymore. You just look for how they paint over it. Sometimes they can hide that stuff. That's the thing. Look, headstock repair for me is simple. No, do I stay away from them? Absolutely not. Two things I look at when I look at a guitar that has headstock repair. One, I look at how cheap I can get it. Sometimes that's the best deal, right? Absolutely. Sometimes you can walk into a deal that just, and who cares? Who cares? There's a local DJ in my area. His name's Neanderthal. He's one of the guests, or he might be one of the members. I guess he's a guest member on the Johnny Bean Show. He's on the Johnny Bean Show. Great guy. And he bought a Gibson with a broken headstock. And we were talking the day he did it. I didn't sell it to him, but I was just there. And we were talking, and I agree with everything he said. We were talking about the fact that he's like, I'm going to play this guitar. Like, my nice Gibson's going to stay at the home. And the one that had the headstock repair that's done really well, I'm going to use this and abuse this because this is a smoking deal. And I was like, yep, I agree 100% with that. So yeah, I think, if you get a headstock repair and it's done right, get it, play it, abuse it, who cares, right? You know how many guitar players have broken headstocks? Dimebag Darrell's guitars was I think most of those headstocks were broken off, or at least the important ones were. There's tons of those stories like that. So the only thing is about guitar headstock repairs, there's only two things I look for, really. One, I look for how cheap can I get that guitar. And again, I don't have to steal it per se, but it can't be anywhere near where non-broken headstock guitar is. You have to have a deal. And then the second thing I look for is how well it was repaired. You know what I mean? Because I've seen it all. You've seen it all. I mean, you know how many guitars are repaired with Gorilla Glue now? Which is the worst. I mean, I don't know what Gorilla did. I guess because it's just predominant in the section at Home Depot. But all of a sudden, like once Gorilla Glue came out, it's like every time all of a sudden you just saw every headstock Gorilla Glue, and that stuff just oozing out of the sides. And then sometimes it's just left there, and sometimes they take some kind of blade and they scrape it off, and it's just horrific. But no, so if the repair's done well and the price is right, no, who cares? Like I said, not everything's a collector's piece. I play my guitars, and they're all I say I play my guitars. Some are collector's pieces, like my Ibanez Gem. It's a collector's piece. I pull it out. I do this thing that I absolutely hate. I hate myself. It's why my buddy Joe sold it to me, because he said he hated himself for doing it too. I hate myself for doing this. I pull it out. I strum it. I play it. I look at it for a few minutes and I put it back in the case. I told myself I was never going to be that person ever in my life. And of course I found myself doing it. And it's because it's an emotional thing. It does something for me emotionally. I have a couple of collector's guitars that I think are interesting and cool. My Gibson R9 for that part is kind of this guitar. I strum it. And I do have a video I'm working on for that. We'll see how that comes across. But a lot of my guitars, man, they're abused. I mean, abused. It doesn't come across in the videos and the cameras and stuff. You can't see, but if you see them in person, you'll see like my SG has dents in it. My Mira is chipped and beat up everywhere. It's been refretted. They're abused. I told you guys, anybody who's been a long-term viewer of this channel knows a couple things. Think of this. My wife's biggest frustration forever was, my guitar's laying around everywhere. One of the things that happened on the show over years was all of a sudden the wall became just nuts with all these guitars, right? Now this is a close-up on the wall because I'm closer. But you guys are like, oh, there's so many more guitars behind you. I'm like, no, they used to be just laying everywhere. And then my wife was like, screw this. And she's like, we're putting hangers everywhere. We have hangers everywhere in the house. She's like, stop leaning your guitars. I will, and to this day, I'll still do it. I love her. And I really feel bad that I'm this way. Because it's something she hates. I told you guys, I will stick them in the hampers, the clothes hampers. It's gross, right? In the dirty clothes. I'll stick a guitar in the dirty clothes. Because I'll be walking and I'll be like, I got to put this. It just goes in the dirty clothes. That's why I have the zither stands. I use them. They're not like furniture. They're just places where I can hang guitars. I try to do it that way. I will lean a guitar on the couch. and just leave it there and go into the room. Like I said, I really don't treat my guitars like I'm going to resell them. I play them. And then if I don't play them, then they go. And that's when you guys see when a guitar comes and goes, it's because it wasn't getting played. Even if I loved it, it just wasn't getting played. If I'm afraid to play it, which kind of like the Gem, or if it's just something that I don't want to buy guitars just to watch them go up and flip them. That's not really what I'm after. I want to play these things and love it and feel good about it. It's funny. That's not just a guitar thing. That's my personality by nature. We were having new flooring put in the house. And you already know the story's going because half of you, if you've tried to do new flooring lately, that's just insane. It's back ordered. It's just crazy. So we went and had the flooring quote done for the house and for the bottom stairs. And my wife told me the quote, and I said, "That's ridiculous." It was ridiculous. It was stupid. And then she thought about it. And she's like, "Yeah, that's a lot of money." And she goes, "Do you want to do it?" And I told her, I said, and it's funny, this is a mentality difference. Her mentality was like, kind of like a budget logic. We have the money in the bank. Do we not have the money in the bank? Can we afford to do this? Can we not afford to do this? Very practical. My approach, way different. I said, "Can't do it." She's like, "No, I think we can make it work. I think we gotta, I think if we do blah, 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 and this blah, 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 we'll afford it." And I said, no. I said, "I cannot have your nieces and nephews come over and drop something on the floor and freak out. I just can't be that person. That's not, I can't do it. And I can't spend enough money on flooring to where I have to worry about what happens to flooring. I just can't do that. I can't worry about if your the dog's nails are trimmed, or I just don't want to be a slave to this flooring. This is not the life I want to be." So same thing with guitars. I want to not be afraid of them. So, well, that's a long speech to tell you guys that. But hopefully these things, some of you can relate. Some of you are like, and some of you like nice things and will maintain them. Me, I just want to use stuff, not worry about it. Rick says, "How do you value an immaculate condition 75 Strat that has locking tuners?" Okay, well, it didn't come with them, and the pickups have been changed out. How do you value it? Well, I mean, I'm not a vintage guitar buyer, reseller by any means. So, I mean, I can't help you a whole lot. What I can tell you, of course, is it doesn't matter how well the modifications have been done to the guitar and how good they are. Like, for instance, a vintage Strat with like Lindy Fralin pickups and the best tuning keys, that's not really going to help a 75 Strat. That's the irony of this. This is why I tell you guys, even though most of us are repairing Squiers and inexpensive guitars and moderately priced guitars, you do want to treat guitars like they could be one day valuable in the idea if you're going to do modifications. So you want to be able to reverse as many of those modifications as possible. And that's why I tell you guys, don't drill holes in the headstocks and stuff like that. You know what I mean? They make all these parts now so that we can change out things without doing heavy modifications. It never helps the guitar. The modifications never improve the value of the guitar. It improves the value of your playing, your sound. It's for you. But as soon as you try to sell that guitar off with modifications, you're killing the sale of the guitar. And that's if it's a new guitar. A vintage guitar, it's even hurting it even more. The vintage guitars are valued by how close to vintage correct they are. Vintage they are, original, right? The more original, the better. So the modifications hurt it. How much so? I have no idea. That I don't know. You have to do some research. But that's what I will tell you. The modifications hurt that 75. So, and as a basic answer as this is, and as silly as this is to tell you, but it's the truth. It's doesn't help it in any way. It only hurts it. So even if you love those mods, what I will tell you is, again, preference. If you gave me a choice to buy a vintage 75 Strat, let's say I want to buy a 75 Strat, and it could be exactly perfect, you know what I mean? Closet classic, right? Something like that. Or something that had like locking tuners and new pickups in it and it's been decked out. I would rather take the discount and have something I can play. See, that ties into what I just told you about my mentality. So I actually like that idea. I like it when, what did Joe Bonamassa on some Instagram years ago was talking about vintage guitars and collecting them. And he was talking about a guitar, I think, where they, Telly, I think, where they routed out the neck pickup for a humbucker and stuck a humbucker in there and modded the guitar in some degree, some kind of vintage Telly. And he was saying that it devalues the Telly, but it makes it cool because he would never do that to the guitar if he had it pristine. Same thing. I would never take a 75 Strat or a 65 Strat or any of these guitars and mod them up. But if one was already modded and I could save some money getting it and I was going to play it, it's great. I'm totally for that. If I was going to try to resell it, I'd stay away from it because because it's not, it's not going to be easy. You're going to be dealing with the same problem that this person's got it now is dealing with, which is, this is original and this is not original and this has been modded. And everybody likes, like I said, everybody likes to tell you like, oh, and this was done by so-and-so, like that matters, but it doesn't. So there you go. I got a super chat for $99.99, which is crazy. $100 super chat. I think I got a $100 super chat like a couple years ago. That was crazy. And the worst part is I can't even say the name. I'm going to say the last name is Beck. I don't know. Although, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to Google and try to figure out how to say that name this week. And then next week on the show, I'm going to say your name because for a huge super chat, you deserve that. But in fact, I'm going to screenshot it right now. Sometimes you get lucky. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Music Therapy Laz, what's up, buddy? I just watched your video today. It says, finally became a patron. What took me so long? Great meeting you, man. Phil's the coolest dude. You know what? That's really kind. He's really kind of shifting the cool part. The cool part was meeting Music Therapy Laz. I got to hang out with him, was it 2 weeks ago? Week before last. He made me a stand, a hanger that's made of leather. Hope you like leather. And I'm going to show it to you guys. It's just I haven't got there for, it's stuff, catching up on the stuff. But anyways, he was nice enough. I met him and we did a meetup and he gave me a beautiful gift and it was nice hanging out with him. And he bought me my old Friedman guitar. I didn't sell it to him. I had already traded it off. And I traded it and got a car amp, CARR amp, because I got another Friedman guitar. That's how that goes. And now he has it. He's the happy owner of that guitar. So it kind of works out. And thank you for becoming a patron as well. So, Meester says, saw Evertune guitars at Punk Rock Bowling and Music Festival in Las Vegas. Lots of ferocious riffing. One was a Les Paul. Yeah, I would imagine. Like I said, I think we're getting closer and closer to having a Evertune guitar on the channel. Like I said, when I originally was talking to Evertune, I said, wouldn't it be great if we took one of my Les Pauls and did it? That didn't really work out. Nothing really worked out from that scenario. And they weren't difficult by any means. Just, it's a perceptionary problem that you have to deal with when you have a YouTube channel. It's like, hey, look, I got to spend, it's never about, for me, it's never about the, hey, I'm going to get you in front of 10,000 people. Although, I guess that's a thing. I don't really look at it that way. I look at it like, hey, it takes me 2 days to film and edit. And this is what I make when I normally work. So when I'm not normally working, I want to make as much as I'm making when I'm working, when I'm YouTubing. Does that make sense? That's like the goal. So something to that to that effect. So I get it. They don't really have the budget that makes sense, and I didn't really have like the means to kind of like, okay, let's just take 2 days. And I think the Evertune video is going to end up being like a 5 or 6 day thing. In other words, it's not just filming for me. It's research, it's playing, it's learning how to use it, it's all that stuff. But yeah, no, trust me, I'm very curious about the system, and it comes up a lot on the show. So I still like the idea of having one of my personal guitars done that way. I don't think that's ever going to work, but I think at some point I'm just going to finally, just have to buy one with it in there. And I'd like to buy one I think I'm going to keep. So anyways, David says, I got to learn how to time the drink of water. David said, oh, by the way, we should do this because we're at the 2 hour mark. Hold on a second, guys. Hold on. Swizz, see, you guys are just making up all this stuff. Swizz 871 is the last super chat of the day. So please don't super chat after that one. There's just no way I'll be able to get to it. David says, and by the way, I appreciate you guys for doing this stuff, but it says, hey, Phil, I want to play rockabilly. I'm saving up for a Fender amp. My two choices are the Hot Rod Deluxe and the Hot Rod DeVille. Which one? I'd go Deluxe. That's my personal thing. The DeVille, man, the 212 is great, or you can get the 410 DeVille. I've owned all three of those at some point, and I always ended up back to the Hot Rod Deluxe. The Hot Rod Deluxe is just, it's more than enough. Whether a rockabilly band or not, I will tell you this, David, here's how it works. If you're not playing bigger venues or big venues, I wouldn't go with the extra speaker or the extra speakers, depending on if you're going to 410 or 212. I don't know what the big advantage to that is going to be for you. If you're at home for the most part, definitely the Hot Rod Deluxe is more than enough. The only exception to that, of course, is if you're looking at used or deals and you can find a Hot Rod DeVille for sometimes the same or less money, maybe just go for that. You know what I mean? But you will have to carry that weight, man. It's heavier. The 410's heavier than the 212, and the 212, of course, heavier than the 112. That seems obvious, but I just want to point that out just in case you don't know. Some people forget how heavy the 410s get. Those four small, all those slightly smaller magnets, there's four of them versus two. So it's so a lot of weight, but I like them all. Since it is kind of, we should talk about the tone, the sound. Maybe I like the DeVille maybe more than the Hot Rod Deluxe or the 212. I don't really know. I know this. You could also take the Hot Rod Deluxe and plug it into a 212 cabinet. So if you ever need a 212, that is an option. You can do that. You unplug it from the bottom inside the cabinet. You just unplug when it's off. Unplug the internal speaker. Plug in a 212 cabinet. It's good. It's 8 ohms. Most likely it's 8 ohms, or if it's 16 ohms, it'll still be fine. And you're good. So you can make the 112 be a 212. So Tim says, I got a raise today. Thought I would share. Gonna buy an amp soon. Quiet but dirty. Suggestions. Quiet but dirty. First, thank you I got a raise today too, Tim, from you. So congratulations on your raise. In fact, thank your boss for me. Say, hey, some random dude on YouTube said thank you. Or maybe say it better than that. Quiet but dirty. That's tough, right? Because that's so many amps. I mean, you didn't give me a budget. So is it Black Star? Is it an Engel? Is it the Mesa? As I look at amps in front of me. I mean, if you're looking I still think some of the best values out there for the money are the EVH amps. They're really, really good deals out there. The LBX is a great sounding amp, whether you get the 2-channel or the boosted, the original one that has dirty and more dirty, right? Or the second one, third ones, they sound great. The Tremonti, the MT15 is a great amp that does clean very well and dirty. And again, all these amps, those amps are in the $700 and below. Once you hit $1,000, definitely like the 50-watt EVHs, even though they've creeped up to $1,200, you can still find them used for sub-$1,000. Another great amp, you can find it in the $1,000 range. If you're looking at those, look at the Mesa Boogie Reverb or the Recto. Again, dirty and a clean amp, very quiet. They can get quiet. The Recto is not as much as the EVHs. Those EVHs are really kind of great. And so you really get a scope of this. I'm probably pushing the EVH a little harder right now. One, because it's, the anniversary of his passing was this week, so he's back on our minds a little bit. On my mind this bit. If you notice when I did the giveaway I did on that day, it's because I wanted something positive out there. I didn't want to be in that mode that day. So I actually pushed back the giveaway video that day. So maybe put some good chi out there. But I have this Soldano SLO 30 and it's a fantastic amplifier. And my buddy Joe, he's the reason I have that amp. And if you don't know Joe, he owns Rat Pack Records. Check their records out. I mean, they have amazing artists. Like they have the band Roxanne, which is great. They have George Lynch and the Lynch Mob. And the thing about that amp is that amp, which is very expensive, really has taught me how to really appreciate the EVH amps, the Engel Fireball, the Engel Iron Ball, these amps in the $1,000 range. The SLO 30 is a fantastic amp. It's everything you probably imagine, if you guys are familiar with Soldano, what Soldano would be, right? It's that, hey, I have a Soldano and you plug in. There's a moment for a lot of us, like owning a Soldano is like a big deal. And when I plugged into it and I played it and spent some hours with it at home, I was very impressed. I'm very happy, but at no point did I ever come to the conclusion of, wow, people are really missing out. In other words, like if you have an EVH, if you have the Fireball, the Ingle, I don't know. I would never say one's better than the others. I'm not trying to say that they're better than the Soldano or vice versa. What I'm saying is there's nothing that I played on the Soldano that made me go, you're missing out. So to answer your question, Tim, I would look at those amps because you're saying dirty. And they make great sounds. Like I said, I've really, really honed in on how appreciating. I've been very pro Ingle. If you guys noticed lately, it really isn't because Ingle's been working with the channel. They've been working for the channel for a year or two. It's just really made me appreciate those price points when you see some of the more expensive stuff that's really good. Not really blow you away, so to speak. Like I said, it's still fantastic. It's just I don't feel like, wow, 2.5 times the price. And the EVH stuff as well, too. We have Copperfield said, just because you're awesome and I love the show, have a drink on me. I will have a drink on you. Not just water, too. I think I'm going to actually do a drink. I had a interesting drinking experience recently. And so my wife, like a lot of women... I feel horrible saying what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it. She drinks some White Claws, right? So that's the White Claw's like the thing, right? And they're good. They are good. I like them. They're seltzers. And they are kind of like less calories, kind of thing, right? That's the kind of thing. And so she gets a White Claws and I'll have a White Claw. And I've learned that there's 2 flavors I like and I don't really like anything else. But that's not why the story's funny. Couple weeks ago, I went down to the fridge and there was these White Claw Surges there. They were called Surge and they were blue. And I was like, oh, this is different than the White Claw drink. And so I got out my phone, and this is why this is funny. I get out my phone and I type in White Claw Surge because I'm like, I can't see on the box what's different. They're just blue. That's all. And it says, and what comes up that dominates what the description of what it is, what dominates it is the reviews, and the reviews are very bad. And they all basically say, oh, it tastes horrible. Tastes like cough syrup. And I was like, oh, so it's probably like just a really, gross White Claw. Well, it's what was in the fridge. So I opened it and I drank it. And I sit down and I drank the whole thing, right? I'm sitting there drinking it. And all of a sudden, my legs were heavy. Like I was drunk. Like I was hammered off one. And I don't want to exaggerate. Like I could walk. I was fine. Okay. But let's just say I was feeling it. And then I drank another one because I'm like, oh, at this point, I don't even care anymore, right? So I'm drinking the other one. And my wife comes around the corner and she's like, oh, you got the White Claw Surges. And she goes, what do you think of them? And I go, well, it says on the internet they taste worse, but I don't know. They taste like the same. She goes, no, it's twice the alcohol. And I go, oh, that would make sense. All right, twice the... So I feel like that was a public announcement for you. Any of you that drink the White Claw, just be aware that if you see the blue one, it's like literally twice the liquor, twice the alcohol content. So why does that connect? Oh, because I think that's what's in the fridge to drink now is Surge. So I'm doing a Surge. I also thought I was worried. I was thinking it was maybe caffeinated. I was like, oh no, a caffeinated alcohol. That's not a good mix. Joe says, hey, Phil, how much is too much to spend on a parts Telecaster? Oh, okay. I'm watching one on Reverb with boutique parts and claiming to be locally built. Parts guitars, in my opinion, the only real good justifiable reason to buy them is to benefit from what somebody's about to lose out on. It feels horrible saying that, but it's true, right? Like to me, when somebody goes, let me give you an example, because I don't know what you're looking at, but I'll give you an example that really, really hits home. Let's say somebody puts on Reverb like Partscaster Tele USA, Fender USA body with, let's say, a Warmoth neck or even a Fender neck, a quality, USA made neck, right? Warmoth, Fender, something like that. We're not talking about the affordable necks like Mighty Mites, which are fine, but we're talking about more expensive necks. And then it's like Lindy Freeland's, best bridge. I'm trying to think of a bridge, just upgraded bridges, all expensive components, Bourne's potentiometers, orange drop capacitor, treble bleed, ratio, locking keys, all that stuff. That sounds great. I want to pay nothing. I'm not saying I don't want it. I just don't want to pay anything. I want to what I want to be able to do is buy that guitar and then be able to go, yeah, for the same price of buying like a made in Mexico Telecaster, I got a Telecaster made with all the premium components down to the T. And I might even want to pay less than that. And I see people all the time, they try to price this stuff. Well, first, there's the crazy ones that price their stuff at like what they paid plus, like I had it put together by so-and-so, so now I want $1,800. And you're like, you're an idiot. You're never going to get that. And if you do, you just probably took advantage of somebody who had no clue what was going on. And then the next is the slightly less, $1,800 worth of parts, but you can have it for $1,690. You're like, nope, that's not how it works either. It pre-COVID rules, and that's what's tough about having a show where I talk about guitars every week and the world is just changing epically. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to be relevant to the current market. Post-COVID market, half. Whatever it costs them, you're paying half of that. That's not the goal. That's the minimum. Like they paid, if they had a legitimate $1,000 in parts, you could pay $5,000. Now you probably get 75% of that. So there you go. That would be my thing. And I know if you're looking at, and here's why, because again, same thing, the value of it, unfortunately, we don't value things by the accumulation of its cost of components. That's not how it works. This is one thing, if you don't learn anything watching YouTube, all these channels, one thing you should learn from all these channels is that although no one really can justify why brands get to charge so much premium for their brand, it is a fact that a branded instrument gets a premium and everything else doesn't. And compartment parts caster guitars are literally less than that. And to prove that, think about this. It's why almost every famous musician played a parts caster guitar, because they were broke, right? They were broke, right? And they put together a parts caster guitar. Now, the secondary part, we haven't got the secondary part of your problem. Now you also have to believe everything they're saying. So this is where it gets a little tricky. What are you going to take apart the guitar and verify all the components that they're saying? You know what I mean? And so not only is it a parts guitar not going to have the value that you want, which is why when you make parts guitars, I always say, be smart and part it out, right? Think of this. I feel like I'm saying this a lot. I have a friend. I guess I have two friends. So I have a friend, and literally, long as I've known him, 20 years, he makes his living parting out cars. Like he buys cars, right? He hasn't had a real job. I've never seen him have a real job. Real meaning I don't know, he makes money, but real 401k job. Literally, he's like he's on his phone. I've known him so long that I used to remember him getting the paper. Now it's on his phone. And he's like, he finds a car and he's like, oh, $2,800. And he knows, because, he's versed in this. He'll go and buy it on the spot, give the guy $2,500 cash. Literally that afternoon, he'll have made $2,000 just parting out a few things to it. You know what I mean? Because he knows what he's looking for in these cars. So same thing with guitar parts. Now it's tough, but I've done that in the past. I'll be like, oh, I need a neck. Oh, I should find somebody who has a parts guitar. And then literally I'll go, yep, there's the neck I want. And the parts guitar is, no joke, is $50 less than the neck would cost me if I buy the neck. And now I have some Seymour Duncans and a body and a bridge to sell off. So if you put together a parts guitar and you're going to get rid of it, be smart. Sell it off in parts. And if you're going to buy a parts guitar, realize that if they're not going to sell it off in parts, then they don't get the premium either and get the deal. So Joe, get a deal is what I'm trying to say. The Tone King, if you go on his Instagram, he just recently posted a guitar that got lacquer burned, and it just sucks. But that guitar, I was on the phone with him, and it was at the beginning of COVID. I remember because It wasn't, it was COVID and we weren't wearing masks yet, right? It was the beginning when they're like, don't wear a mask. That don't work. So I remember like I had to go to, I think it was an AutoZone or somewhere. And I was on the phone with him and he was talking about that guitar and he bought that guitar for nothing. That was a USA Select body with a neck and the parts. And he scored a deal. And I remember like he told me on the phone, he goes, what do you think? And I go, it's just put all together with parts. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, and he told me the price and it was, you could buy a Squire for what he paid for that guitar. So that's what you do. Buy that, get that, find the deal and do that. Otherwise, no. Thunder Falcon says, can you refuse to sell to someone on Reverb? Absolutely, of course. You can block people on Reverb. You didn't know that? Of course. You can, yeah, you can block people on Reverb. You can obviously not sell to them for any reason. Your right of refusal is at any point in the transaction as well, too. Now, again, this isn't a license to be an asshole, okay? Don't, right? I just don't want to hear the comments later like, Phil, you know, people like you. I'm like, whatever. Look, here's the deal. Okay. I have done it. I'll tell you what I've done and why I've done it. I try not to be a difficult person to interact with on these platforms, when it comes to buying and selling. That is my goal, is to make a pleasant experience from both parties, whether I'm buying or selling. However, that being said, sometimes people are flagging you and they're pinging you that they're crazy. Look, crazy is a thing. I don't care about difficult. Crazy. Difficult, I have a personality. I can smile. I can adjust. I can work with people. You can really push on me pretty hard and I can just keep going, okay, whatever you need, let's do it. I know how to get stuff done. However, crazy? Oh, crazy. It's like, you know, what is it? It's like punching Jell-O. You can't get around it. So when I start getting the vibe in a purchase that they're crazy, and I'll give you some examples of what would be crazy. Not, you know, like here's a good example of someone who's didn't intend to be difficult, but is. You put on your selling auction, which I do, like, please ask all questions before purchase. Please make any requests before purchase. And then, of course, they buy it and you're like, hey, it's sold. And then they're like, hey, could you ship it to my business instead of my home that's on file with Reverb? Look, I just go, yeah. I basically contact Reverb. You can contact Reverb, by the way, let them know that they're asking you to ship to a different address. They make notations of this. There's ways to protect yourself and still follow the rules and do stuff. Is it a pain? It's a little bit of a pain, you know, right? That's not crazy. Crazy is like, I don't know. I don't have a good example. It sucks. I'm trying to think of somebody who's done something that flagged me as weird. But they'll ask you, you know, I guess the best way to put it is they'll ask you weird questions after the purchase. And you're like, these questions feel weird. Like there's not only like they're going to do something fraudulent to you, just like you're about to go down a crazy road. At that point, sometimes, I don't think I've done it more than once, but at some point I probably did say like, hey, I'm actually, you know, this item's no longer for sale. And then you just hit automatic refund and they'll say why. And you just kind of politely like, it's not you, it's me. It's like, hey, I don't feel comfortable with the way it looks and feels. I want it to be accurate with my description. You just give them a basic, you know, explanation of, you know, just tell them you want to do the best you can to get them the product, and you don't feel like you can actually accomplish that in the current circumstances. So yeah, absolutely. And if it's a pre-sale, in other words, they're trying to buy from you, because I've had people try to bully you on Reverb. It happens like way too much. Somebody will say, hey, that's a great Know Your Gear mug you got there for $8. Will you take 6? And I'm like, no, thanks. I'm gonna wait for the 8. And they're like, oh, come on, it's been 2 days. Come on, take $6. No, I think I'm good on the 8. I'm all right. It's like, hey man, you know, what if I give you $6 and I tell you how I'm really gonna drink a lot of coffee out of it? Like after a while, you're like, okay, what is going on, man? Just chill the hell out. You can block that person if you want, but in most cases, I don't think you have to do anything extreme. You can, but the important part, Thunder Falcon, is you can refuse to sell anything on Reverb to anyone. I'm sure, you know, especially in a Reverb. What's nice about Reverb and internet forums is that first of all, you have that right of refusal pretty much as a right given to you for most countries and most places, anyways. But in an environment where it's basically what do you call it? I don't want to say blindfold. What do you call it? It's an environment where basically you're not seeing them, they're not seeing you. There's no really other bias that you have to worry about. It's not like they're going to go, hey, they're not selling to me because I'm Irish or I'm this. You know what I mean? It's usually it's just like, hey, I don't want to sell it. So you have that right. In fact, I would almost sometimes recommend, if you really feel like, same advice I would give to my friends, if you really feel like, like you're about to ship it that day, right? You got it all boxed up and you're hesitating and you're thinking this is really bad. I might say it's just a cautionary tale to maybe reach out to them one more time and see if they can kind of console you in a way over your concerns. I know that sounds silly to say it that way, but it's important, right? Like if you have a concern, maybe just be upfront with them. Like, hey man, I'm about to ship this out, and no offense, you asking me 3 times this one question has made me really nervous. Maybe see what they're going to say. Maybe that may be a course action. I've never had to do that. But for that point of view, what I would say is, if you're feeling bad about it, don't do it. And like I said, just refund their money immediately. So, I mean, I wouldn't want to be on the other end of that, but also, like I said, that's, you didn't ask me that. If the question was, hey, Phil, what do you do when somebody refuses to sell you something? I'd say move on, because it probably wasn't going to be a good experience. All right. Front Level Midnight. What's up, buddy? He says, I got a new push-in arm for my Floyd Rose. Cannot get the tiny nut screw on the back inside of the trim cavity that goes around the base. Any suggestions? Sure. You're trying to turn it up there and there's just no way to get room in there, right? Unfortunately, my answer sucks because I have a very extended socket that I found over time. When you find a tool that works, you hold on that like forever. That will let me get in there. Before that, I would actually use needle nose pliers and just go in there and grab a corner very delicately and just push on it until it's very awkward to get in there. What you're supposed to do, this is why you're probably having the problem. What we're supposed to do is take the Floyd out of the guitar. And if you can't get it done, you got to do it right. You should be doing it right from the get-go. But hey, everybody tries the easiest way first. So in this case, if you cannot do it, you're going to have to actually go through the trouble of taking the Floyd Rose out of the guitar. That's what I would recommend. What I will tell you is that nothing you do is worth chipping that guitar, doing anything, damaging it in any way. So I'm just telling you, sometimes the right way takes a little extra time and it's a little annoying. But man, it pays dividends. Because when you chip that guitar or you do something to that bridge, it's going to suck. Seth says, I got 3 items on my gear wish list. What would you start with? Oh, this is cool. I get to spend your money. The SV20, I had that amp. The AC15, I had that amp within the last year or two. Les Paul standard 60s current rig. I am, okay. So is it, Strat into a Princeton Reverb. So you have a Les Paul standard 60s current rig. You're not going to like my answer because I can't not tell you the right answer for me. I wouldn't get either one of those amps. I'd buy the Friedman Dirty Shirley. That's where I ended up. I had both those amps. AC15 is a different animal. The Dirty Shirley does not get the AC Vox sound. It just doesn't. The SV20, I got rid of that. I use now, in fact, here's what I do. I use the pedal pal into my Friedman. And that's my Marshall. And then when I want the better than Marshall, better is a bad word, right? Because I shouldn't say better. Different than Marshall, I do the Dirty Shirley the way it is. And so, in fact, here's what sucks. In the way I did this, it's not even the Dirty Shirley. I actually can take you back even deeper into this mess. I started with the right amp and didn't stop. I had the right amp from the get-go, was the Runt 20. And then really I had the JJ20, which is the Jerry Cantrell amp. That was even, because the Jerry Cantrell amp is the Runt. They're the same amp, just the Jerry Cantrell has more gain. Same clean, same amp, just one has more gain. And it looks cooler. I think it looks cooler. So I had the Runt, happy. I get rid of the Runt, I get the JJ. Even happier. And then I go, it's not a real Marshall. And I get the Marshalls and totally unhappy. I prefer look, the problem with the SVT20 or SV20, the problem with the Marshall 20 watt series amps is, even at 5 watts, is that for me, on their own, without using an attenuator, without using the aux or the 2 notes or any of this stuff, on their own, you cannot play them in rooms small rooms, bedrooms and stuff as a practice amp. I couldn't. They were just too loud. And same with the AC-15. I had an AC-15, the same thing. It was just, man, it's just not they can do clean. You can run pedals through them, but to get the actual amps tones. But if I'm going to run pedals to the amp, then, I don't need them to do that. I can run. You got a Princeton Reverb, right? You can put a pedal in front of that. So I would consider those amps, the Friedmans. Price wise, they're in that range of what you're talking about. Yeah, AC-15 is not. I bought the AC-15. I think I paid $500 or $600 used, probably $600 used. I think it's like $8 now, new or something like that. SVT-20 is more like $1,300. So I mean, the Friedmans are a little pricey for what they are, but man. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I really like those amps. And everybody likes those amps. You know how I know? Because I've been making videos for years now and putting all kinds of amps in videos. And overwhelmingly, when I switch to certain amps, I can see the uptick in the comments enjoying the tones. Because given that I've recorded everything the same way, I've done everything kind of the same way, you can just see that certain amps not only sound more, I don't want to say more pleasing, but more, people like them more, but also they tend to come across better in the videos and people tend to gravitate towards them. Drew did a super chat for no reason, and then Drew did another super chat. So I'm assuming these are the same, connected same. He says, you are a community builder. Thank you for that. Got me through many a tough time. I want a book of philisms with the pronunciation guide. PAF, Pizzo, Godin, etc. Yes. What's funny about that is I remember when I did the video, how do you say their name company videos, and then it was funny. I wanted to do that as a whole series, and the thing that I learned from that was that even though the official company said this is how you say our name, there was, to this day, if you look at that video, there's people disagreeing with how you say those names. That's why I learned you can never make anybody happy. Not everybody. You can't make anybody happy, except for you, Drew, because you're happy. I appreciate that. And I'm glad to hear, by the way, I'm glad to hear that you got through a tough time with the show. It's funny to me, never occurred to me again in a million years that people would be watching this weekly as some kind of communal experience. At first it was like, oh, they have questions and this is the most efficient way to talk to everybody. And then it just became this thing. And then, like I said, I got it last. So, I enjoy the live show now. I can't even say at the beginning I enjoyed it. I was just doing it. And then towards the beginning, I was just, again, effectively doing it. At some point, it became this thing where I love it as much as you guys do. Or more so. Litvay did a super chat with a guy with glasses. It looks like me. He's got my haircut. How are we doing? We got a lot of these. Okay, we're still going. Chad says, kind of recording question, but what mic do you use to mic your guitar cabinet? And do you use two mics on the cab? If so, what mic combination do you prefer when using two? Sure. Now, what I have to tell you is I make YouTube content, so I record in that framework, which is different, in my opinion, which is, like I said, I've said this before, it's different to me than recording for like music. Because I'm not trying to, in music, sometimes they're trying to capture the actual sound of the amp or the room or the thing. But a lot of times in music, they're trying to capture a beautiful sound or the best sound. So I always tell you guys, I use an SM57 because I do a lot. And sometimes I have the Sennheiser 609, E609. I think it's the least expensive one of the two. So I think there's a 906 and the 609. And then I have a ribbon mic, something 121. Again, I'm not really into recording in mics, right, and stuff. So I have all the mics that I have accumulated because these are the mics to have. I've experimented with all kinds of mics, and really what I've learned is exactly this. I've learned, if you watch the last, I'd say 20 videos that I've done, the audio, a lot of people are like, oh, the audio is really improved. It's the way I capture the audio has changed a little bit, which is I have the amp that I'm using in a different room, and I mic the room and the amp. So they're both mic'd, and they're both going to separate tracks. And what I'm doing when I used to just try to capture the room as a sound, okay? And this is what I was saying, maybe I'm going to do the video on the aux and all that stuff and talk about this. So while that's all happening, I actually have another line of the guitar going into either like a 2 notes product or an aux, which I've been using the aux more and more, aux product, and that's also being recorded. But here's why. You don't get that recording. You guys never get the direct simulated recording. What that is to me is I almost like, I don't know recording, so I'm going to say a scratch track. I don't know. It's actually my reference. So what I do is I go in the room and I try to capture the sound of the product that I'm reviewing. And once I think I nailed it, I actually go in and I use the aux, or like I said, the 2 notes, but like the aux and the app, and I recreate the sound as close to possible as I can. And that's what I'm hearing in the room. So it's been a little different because back in the day I'd be like, oh, in the room it sounds like this. And you see me saying that more and more. And now I don't really talk about how it sounds in the room because it's actually happening in another room. You're hearing exactly what it sounds like, but I'm hearing the recreation in the room. So that's the way I'm doing that stuff. And again, it's just a mission. My goal is to get you closer to the correct expectation of the amp. And again, it's my playing style, it's my guitars, it's my cabinets, it's this. I mean, I'm not trying to say this is what the product sounds like. I'm not trying to tell you what the product sounds like. I'm trying to give you an expectation of how good the product sounds, generally speaking. Is it a little fizzy? Is it not fizzy? You know what I mean? So much stuff now when I watch reviewers now have been so polished and perfected to where I'll hear the product and I can't identify the product and I own it. I'm listening to the recording and I'm like, and I'm not talking about when they bury it in a mix, put it in a mix of stuff. That happens. I'm talking about when they're like, literally, check, this is the chord, and they hit it. And I'm like, that never sounds like that. Like ever. I don't care how much better they are as a guitar player than me or what they have, or they have better recording gear. Better recording gear shouldn't be the thing that you're listening to, right? Let me give you a great way to kind of see this the way I see it. Just because if you have a crappy amp and amazing recording gear and it sounds amazing, that's great if you're making an album. But it's horrible when you're trying to give everybody an expectation of what they're about to purchase. For instance, wouldn't it be sad if you buy a $200 amp, get home, and it sounds like crappy? And then imagine if you were to talk to the person that made that video and say, hey, man, my amp just sounds horrible. And they're like, oh, well, all you got to do to get it good is buy $7,000 in recording gear, and it will sound just like it did in my video. And you're going to be like, great. I bought it because it was $200. That's in my budget. I didn't have $7,200 to make it sound good. So, and that's the thing. So, that's how I do it. 2 mics now. I always mic the room, and they are separate tracks, and I am blending them in the recordings now, which I used to not. Used to get the raw, just the upfront mic on the product. And again, I learned that the room really conveys a lot of the message of the product sometimes. So I've balanced it. And then, like I said, when I'm editing, I try to go, okay, this is exactly what it was like. You know what I mean? When I was there. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. And it seems to be working. Like I said, I pay attention to everything you guys say. So when I'm reading the comment stuff, I kind of take the notes from that, cues from that. And there you go. So, okay. Jim says, for those who say Sweetwater doesn't give a discount, realize not all items can be discounted due to margins. Keep me rock and fill. That's true, right? Of course, if they're back ordered and they don't have it, you're not going to get a deal. Are not likely to get a deal, you know what I mean, at all. But I mean, it's, like I said, you can always try. That's the whole point. Asking is not a problem. Asking for a discount, asking for a competitive price, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's what I want to convey to you guys. And of course, if they can't do it, then that's when you make your decision. Okay, you either believe that they can't do it, because sometimes they could just say that, right? And then sometimes it could be legitimate. And how you can probably tell the best way is look on their competitors. And if you can find the better price, well, then the odds are, that they weren't being as 100% truthful with you. But if you can't find another deal somewhere else, then you stick with them. If that's all that matters to you. Sometimes the deal is what matters, and sometimes the service is what matters. I mean, Sweetwater really builds their system off service. That's what they're angling for, which is why so many people get so upset with them, which is what I've told them and what I see from you guys. I've never seen any comments about some of the other retailers, like I've seen comments about Sweetwater, being so offended by the service you got. It's almost like expected that most places have average service, right? So a lot of the discussions are about the discounts and the actual defectiveness of the product. What I mean by that is, sometimes I hear you guys rant about Sweetwater, and the rant is not about the product being defective or the deal or the shipping. It's about something as minor as, again, the service, the way you were treated. And it's because you can tell they care about their service. So when they're not acting the way they should, you feel it's almost personal, I think. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that feeling. I think it makes sense. That's why that's their system. They want to be the service company online. Mike Buchanan says, hey, Phil, love my new Kiesel. Had it for 2 months on your suggestion. Thank you. I appreciate it. I got 2 Kiesels behind me. I got one right there. And then my Theos, which is right somewhere there, right there. I'm pointing to a Theos in a single cut bevel. Thanks for the heads up. It's really well built guitar. Pick it up and play, still in tune. Yeah, fantastic guitars. Like I said, you hear bad things about every guitar company, hear good things about every guitar company. I've had very good experiences with Kiesel, and so when you guys have told me you had good or bad experiences, I've shared every time to them when I have their ear. I share with share with them what you guys say, and I don't know. I think they take it to heart. It seems like they're trying to improve. They see obviously their new website is it's suggestions from viewers and customers saying, "Hey, you need a better website." Their new website is they're trying to improve it. But I also say, like I said, there's always a bias to everything. And I always like to disclose my bias. My main bias with Kiesel, the reason I like what lends me to like them, is that they make some of the most affordable American-made custom guitars. If not the most affordable American-made custom guitar, the most affordable USA-made or American-made semi-custom guitar. That's where I go with that. And I've said this before, and I really believe this. And again, I just want to tell you this. It's from the heart. I believe that if companies like them, if they don't succeed, there's no shot for anyone, because everything will either be seriously crazy price boutique that the majority of us can't afford or even think about, or it'll be affordable import stuff, which is fine. That's fine too. Behind me is both those things. I mean, behind me, next to me is a Squier Affinity. It's a great guitar and it's affordable and it's an import. Next to that is this semi-custom Kiesel made in the USA guitar. And I like both of them and I can appreciate both of them. But I deep down do not want to see not only all the manufacturers leave my country. I mean, nobody wants to see that. I don't care what country you're in. No one wants to see the fact that you don't make anything anymore. But the second thing I don't want to see is any kind of remnants of affordable manufacturing in my country, which is important to me, that I can even relatedly afford these guitars. Kiesel makes guitars in the USA. They do not import guitars, and they have guitars in the $1,000 range. In other words, you can say 1,000 something instead of saying 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 something. You can say 1,000 something, $1,800, $1,500. And perfect example, the guitar that they're building for me and the guitar that we're going to make available to you guys, again, not as a signature model, just available with the option packs, is a guitar that Fender would also do price-wise, our type of guitar, because it's based on my Fender custom shop guitar. But the price point from Fender would have to be almost $6,000 to $7,000 is what it looks like it would have to be if we spec'd it out the same way. And Kiesel is going to be a fraction of that. You can buy 3 Kiesels for the same price. Again, Kiesel is not Fender. It's not going to have the resale Fender it does. And I'm still, like I said, I love my Fenders. But I'm saying there's goods and bads of everybody. Like I said, that's what I like about them. So that's when I talk about them. That's what it is I like. WooTech says, wait a minute. This is my real name. That is your real name. I understand what you're saying. Your name looks like everybody else's crazy names, but your name is a real name. I get what you're saying. Ivan is Prestige Boy says FX loop on the Mark V35, so it's the Mark V 35, makes a pop when the board is plugged in. You mean when you're plugging in it? Well, I'll keep going. Audio difference in tone. Normal guitars go to half in hard case, unplayed for a while. Normal. I got to make sure I understand the question. And the pop sound, so you saying a pop when it's plugged in. When it gets plugged in, it makes a pop. That sounds right. You shouldn't have the amp on. You should put it in standby when you plug in your send returns, because you can. I don't think you'll damage the amp, but you can technically maybe damage the speaker. It's one of those things that we worry about when we hear a pop sound. It's like that thump could do something to the speaker in the coil. So that's something to be aware of, but the pop sound itself wouldn't concern me. That's obviously you're putting signal, you're jumping in the chain. It's no different than plugging the front of the amp, or in some cases it could be worse. So nothing wrong there. What I will tell you about Mesa Boogies and my experience in pedals is that Mesa Boogies and pedals, they have a difficult relationship, whether they're the effects loop or the front end. As a person who loves Boss pedals and a person who loves Mesa Boogies, those two things do not want to play nice together. Sometimes you could put a Boss pedal in front of your Mesa or in the effects loop and you just get this horrible hissing white noise sound. So that could be the case many times over. No, it's none of your problems sound like it's unique to that specific amp to me, if that helps. And I think that's probably what you're getting at. Is there anything wrong with your one amp? No, everything I've heard you say is an issue I would experience with my Mark 525 or my other Mesas. The Drunken Scoundrel says, Ryan at 60 Cycle Hum recommended a channel for amp repair mods, Fazio Electric. Yeah, she's awesome. She is a great teacher. After one video, I went from not understanding crap about electronics to wanting to build amps. Yeah, I've seen her channel. She's very, very good. I don't watch a whole lot of amp channels because I have no interest in working on amps. And have been very, I need to knock on wood, very lucky. I've had very few amp repairs in my life. Like I said, that Line 6 story I started the show with, that was one of maybe 2 or 3 amp repairs I've ever had in my entire life. So I really don't have a whole lot of problem with amps, and I really don't buy a lot of old amps, and that's kind of where you're going to get a lot of problems. But yeah, seen her channel. It's a very cool channel if you haven't seen it. Fazio, I hope I'm saying the name right. I think I am. Fazio Electric. She's a builder. I think she's in California. She fixes amplifiers in California. Very clear, very edited and polished and put together perfectly. Polished meaning not like it's all, sweet camera positions and beautiful lighting. I mean, polished in the idea, like you said, it's getting to the point. We don't have to watch her walk, across the room to get a screwdriver and come back to the amp. She's getting to the effective. As you guys know, my attention span for videos like that stuff is very short. I really need somebody to get right to what they're showing me. We could talk all day. I could watch all kinds of talking all day, but showing me something, I really want to get to what you're showing me. Shut Up, Let's Talk said, did a Yamaha shipment sink in the ocean? ? My local Sam Ash employees told my buddy that was the reason his amp repair being late. BS. I have heard that same story, and I don't know the answer. I haven't heard anything, in my pipelines of communication. It's one of those things like in this world, of course, that could be a possibility. It sinks in the ocean. What I will tell you is how many times what I hear all the time, and I've been hearing it forever, and now it's worse during COVID, is, the factory caught on fire. Everybody's factory catches on fire, which is actually true, but not everyone, but a lot. Everybody's waiting for parts. I don't like these answers. You have to tolerate the answers that you have to tolerate. I don't like them just like you, but it's hard to argue with them. Everybody's waiting for parts. I'm literally dead in the water for pickups, so you know. My goal was to ship a certain amount of pickups before the end of the year, and I've already shipped that many pickups. So I hit the goal. That's great, right? So I try to order enough to not double the goal, but do the next batch of pickups. It's not looking good. I'm waiting for parts right now. So that's why if you go to the website, it says out of stock. Some of you guys have been saying, hey, it's still saying out of stock. I don't do pre-orders. If it says it's in stock, they're in stock. If they're not in stock, you're not allowed to order it. I just don't need, with my world of 50 plates spinning on sticks, I don't need you going, hey, did you get my pickups that I pre-ordered done? I don't want pre-order problems. So when I make it, I put it on the website. And I'm working on that. But right now, I don't know if I could sell twice as many pickups as I've been selling. I could definitely sell more. But, again, it's parts. It's parts is a problem. Shut up, let's talk. It is a physical problem everybody is physically dealing with right now, especially if you want to be consistent. And that's one of the things you have to think about too. There's one of the evils that you might have to pick. I don't want to wait for my parts, but also I don't want them to get substandard parts. There's not a supplier that I've talked to that hasn't suggested to me a substandard, in my opinion, a substandard part as a resolution to my problem. I like to use the fiber bobbins. That's just the way I like to do things. And they were like, we're out. We can send you plastic ones. I'm like, I don't want the plastic ones. I want the fiber bobbins for the pickups I make, for the ones, the specific single coils I do. And they're like, okay. And then same thing. Like, oh, we don't have this, but we can get you those. Then I'd rather just be out of stock. But I have that luxury. I don't want to be. I don't want to make it come off harsh or I guess harsh is enough word. I don't want it to come across harsh for anyone out there. I literally can go, okay, well, if I don't ship this week, I have other things. I have multi streams of income coming from different angles. So, as long as something's still moving, I'm doing okay. But I've been offered so many different parts than what I normally use. So to answer your question, I don't know if it's true, but I don't think it'd be hard to investigate to figure out if you wanted to through some Google searching. But I would imagine the best thing if I was going to investigate this, the first thing I would do if I was something I cared about, call Yamaha. You're saying Sam Ash is saying that to you. Well, then call Yamaha. The odds of you finding a random Yamaha employee at Yamaha willing to lie to you and be consistent with the lie of perpetrating this ocean fiasco, not likely. My guess is they'd be like, no, not that I've heard of, or I can find out. So find out. Swizz871 says, Phil, are pickups that are essential a hot rodded version of a PAF pickup with little less mid-range and a little bit more output versatile, ? And is that mid-range needed in a live band setting? So the question that he's getting at, or they're getting at, is, are pickups that are essentially a hot rodded version of PAF, which is kind of like what I make. I make one. So this is a great question for me. So it says with a little less mid-range. See, mine has more mid-range, but okay. So interesting. And a little bit more output. Is it versatile? No. And so here's where this is like a self-serving answer, and I don't want to come across this way, but this is my problem with the PAF pickup when you hot rod it. The PAF pickup to me is sweet sounding. I know it's a horrible way to use a taste term for your ears, but it is sweet. It's like everything feels very just smooth and beautiful and sweet, and I love it. Even though it's a little scooped. In other words, the mids are just a little bit out of it. But that's why they were great in amps like Marshalls, which were all in the mids, and they kind of, they just kind of came together and they sounded just really, really, they just married really well. The problem with a lot of PAF style pickups is once you kind of try to, give them a little bit more punch, right, a little more output so that they can push the amp a little bit harder and get more gain, they actually continue the sweep even more so. So you get less mids. And the problem with that is even though it still has a sweet tone, like you said, it gets a little buried in the mix between all those, cymbals in the high range and the bass player in the low range. You're just not in the spot you need to be in. So it's tough. So that's why a lot of manufacturers over the years and pickup builders have tried to make these pickups that have these more mid-tones. And this is where it gets difficult, right? It's a difficult thing with pickups. The most difficult thing about pickups in my experience that I've dealt with over the years is that to find the pickup that works in the mix and is also pleasing on its own is the trick. A lot of times, some of the pickups that I've heard when playing in a band environment, like the drummer starts going, the bass player goes, and I hit a chord and I go, man, it's like angels singing in here. That in a room, when I go, listen to this guitar, and I hit the chord, and it's just me and my friend, he's like, whoa, what's that? And you're like, oh, well, now picture it with a cool bass and some drums, right? Because it's just too much mid punch. The mids can get really harsh, and they actually fatigue my ears. I like mids. Mids are important, but mids will kind of grind at you like a chainsaw, like it's just running and running and running, and it fatigues my ears. So to me, it's like this perfect world of how do you get this mid smooth, this mids in there and still keep it smooth. So to get to your main part of your question is the mid-range needed in the band? It's absolutely needed in the band. That we know. Now, a lot of people are going to argue like it doesn't matter. You can adjust all those on the amps and stuff. You can. I mean, obviously like that. Part of the problem now is and this is a great way to end the show. Part of the problem now is that there's an answer and a question and an answer that is confusing only in its context. In other words, what I mean by that is it used to be decades ago that every component really mattered because every component was aiding in the limitation of another component. Here's what I mean by that. your Marshall only got so much crunch, right? You crank all those knobs at 10 and you only got so much crunch. To get more, you needed a super distortion from DiMarzio, something that had more kick. And that got the amp a little bit more. And then maybe the tube screamer a little bit more. And everything was like, and those components became this like perfect marriage of like, okay, if you had all these, you are set. And those were important. And so those built this whole lineage of like, okay, well, all these things are important. But over time, companies like Mesa Boogie and Soldano, I don't want to say I'm saying it that way, Soldano and Bogner, and we could go on for days, all the amp companies, right? They start developing products that essentially take care of that issue all in one thing. You don't need a super distortion to get a Mesa Boogie to overdrive. You don't need a tube screamer to get the Ingle to distort. You know what I mean? These aren't as important. And so when somebody says, oh, it doesn't matter, I can use any pickup and get a good tone. Well, yeah, in fact, some amps are by design there to be the prominent sound and get away with what they're going to do. In other words, the distortion, the quest to get distortion has been solved. Like you don't see a whole lot of questions on the channel like this, like, hey, Phil, how do you get distortion? Think about this. If we had YouTube in 1977, that would be a question. That would be one of the things we'd be talking about today. Hey, Phil, how do you get distortion? And I'd be like, oh, man, what you got to get is one of these blah, blah, blah pedals. Just juice that amp right up. Right? And you get distortion. But now we know how to get distortion. There's like 7,000 things that produce distortion. So the same thing goes for this question. Do you have to have mids in the band? You do. Do you have to have a pickup that has more mids? No. You, unless of course you have an amp that's limited and limited, and the pickup's going to help that. Again, all these products can aid each other, but again, if you use different products, you don't need any of these things. And that's why I said there's two answers to this. Do I think you need a super distortion to push a Marshall over? Yes. Do you need a super distortion to push a Mesa over? No. So the question is, if you said, hey, Phil, I have a Marshall, should I get a hot pickup to get more gain? Yes, or a boost. If you said, hey, Phil, I need more distortion on my Ingle, I'd be like, I don't know how to help you because that's a lot of distortion. So I hope that kind of helps. You know what I mean? There you go. I hope that kind of goes in. We went long today. This is the longest show I think we've ever done. So on that note, we're going to cut it. This is it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. There was quite a few of you today. It was great questions. I had a good time. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Like I said, my weekend's going to be interesting because, like I said, my wife's on crutches, and so we're definitely not going for a walk. On that note, I will see you guys next Friday at 3:00. Thank you everyone who super chatted, everyone who supports the channel, everyone who asked a question, everyone who posted a comment. Thank the moderators for moderating this crazy mess every week. They are great. Like I said, for taking care of this. They get the brunt of all the crazy comments, and I appreciate them doing that. And on that note, I'm going to let you guys go as soon as I figure out where the new button moved to. All right, see you guys next week. Thank you, and know your gear.